Chapter 316. It seemed that this little black pig had been suppressed too miserably these 2 days. Even in its dreams, it wanted to take revenge. Xiao Pingon looked at the flame rhinoceros gnashing its teeth as if it couldn't wait to tear him into pieces. He suddenly wanted to laugh. It was turned into a pig by him. It would be abnormal if this guy didn't hate him. But Xiao Pingon also felt a little strange. He entered the dream of the flame rhinoceros and stood in the basement of the flame rhinoceros dream. It was as if he was watching a strange performance, but the flame rhinoceros didn't feel anything. Xiao Pingon wasn't too sure what his current ability was, but what he was sure of was that this seemed to be much more advanced than a simple dream-playing technique. The dream-playing technique could only make other people's dreams manifest. But at this moment, he was in someone else's dream. The difference between the two abilities was too big. All right, I wonder if I can control other people's dreams? Just like when he was outside, the spirit realm immediately changed with just a thought. This thought flashed through his mind. Xiao Pingon looked at the flame rhinoceros who was fighting vigorously and chopped off one of the hands of the Xiao Pingon in the dream. Suddenly, a thought came to his mind. Could he turn the flame rhinoceros into a pig again? Just as this thought appeared in his mind, the flame rhinoceros, who was laughing maniacally as it smashed Xiao Pingon into pieces, suddenly turned into a little black pig in a puff of smoke with a bang. It instantly lost all of its magic. The flame rhinoceros' wild laughter suddenly stopped. F***. How can this be? How can this be? Change back for me. I don't want to be a pig. The flame rhinoceros who turned into a little black pig roared in the dream. He couldn't speak. All of a sudden, the flame rhinoceros' strange roar turned into a pig's snort. In the flame rhinoceros dream, Xiao Pingon was suddenly amused and almost laughed. It turned out that it was really possible. As long as he thought of something, it would appear in other people's dreams. Everything in this spiritual realm seemed to be his dream. Whatever he thought of, it would appear. Interesting flame rhinoceros, enjoy it. Xiao Pingon began to create the plot. Xiao Pingon thought, and everything in the dream changed. The figure of the Xiao Pingon that had turned into fragments once again condensed little by little. Then Luo Laojia and his dog appeared in the secret room. Luo Laojia with a sinister smile and held a surgical tool in his hand. Luo Laojia's dog pounced out of the flame rhinoceros, who had turned into a small black pig and was bitten in the secret flame rhinoceros. The flame rhinoceros was turned into a small black pig and was bitten by the flame rhinoceros. Flame, my lord, let me help you. Luo Laojia smiled sinisterly. He waved his hand and cast a net to bind the flaming rhinoceros. Then he caught the flaming rhinoceros and placed it on an operating table. He tied its hands and feet. This little black pig is so rebellious, but hasn't been butchered yet. Butchering it will make it obedient in the future. The flame rhinoceros screamed like a pig on the operating table. However, the bright and cold scalpel in Luo Laojia's hand began to make a cut on its key part and began to perform the inhumane operation on it. In the dream, the Xiao Pingon made a big pot and began to boil water. The water in the big pot began to boil. Then he said to Luo Laojia, "A skinned pig is delicious. You should skin it first and then fatten it up. After that, throw it into the pot and remove its hair. Today, we will have a sumptuous meal and eat it bit by bit." After letting the flame rhinoceros enjoy the one-stop service in his dream, Xiao Pingon thought and withdrew from the flame rhinoceros's dream. The spiritual realm was still the same spiritual realm. Xiao Pingon became more and more interested in this world. At the same time, in the real world, the body of the little black pig that was sleeping in the kitchen of the small courtyard stiffened. It let out a soft groan of miserable howl intermittently. Its face was filled with fear, and its body twitched from time to time. It was beginning to enter nightmare mode. Xiao Pingon raised his head. The sky, full of stars and balls of light, were still flickering. This world was filled with rolling gray fog and was full of mysteries. The closest star to the flame rhinoceros was a yellow star. Xiao Pingon thought and the yellow star fell from the sky and appeared in front of Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan reached out and touched the star. He immediately felt the star's information. This star was the spiritual body of a bodyguard of a family next to the courtyard he rented in Changle Alley. The bodyguard was called Shui Biao, and his cultivation was at the One Sun realm. Xiao Pingan wanted to try to enter this person's dream, but found that this person's spiritual body was protected by a layer of hard energy. It was like a wall. It was not as easy as when he entered the flame rhinoceros's spiritual body. Strange, the flame rhinoceros was also a Six Sun realm expert. How could he enter his dream so easily? Could it be that he was affected by his shape-sealing technique and turned into a pig's body? Was that why he could enter his dream so easily? Xiao Pingan waved his hand, and the yellow star flew back into the sky. Next to the flame rhinoceros, there was also a star that emitted a white light. Xiao Pingan's thoughts moved, and the star suddenly fell from the sky and appeared in front of Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan stretched out his hand and touched it. Instantly, he entered that star. The owner of this star was the coachman of the courtyard next door. He was an ordinary person in his 30s. When Xiao Pingan entered, he found that the coachman was dreaming of a date with a servant girl called Xiao Chui in Shangjing City. They were having a great time. Xiao Pingan gently withdrew from the dream, and the white star flew back into the sky. There was another ordinary star next to it. Xiao Pingan thought, and the star fell again. Xiao Pingan entered and found that the owner of the star was a chef from the courtyard next door. The chef was dreaming that he had become a summoner. In his dream, he rejected a beautiful young lady's invitation to stay and was preparing to go on an adventure with a group of companions. Everyone's dreams were colorful and colorful. After withdrawing from the star, Xiao Pingan summoned a few stars of different colors and tried them out. He gradually concluded some things. Apart from the flame rhinoceros, the ordinary white stars represented the spiritual bodies of ordinary people without cultivation. He could easily enter the dreams of these ordinary people without any obstacles. As for the colored stars, they represented the spirit bodies of the summoners and warriors. The spiritual bodies of martial artists were typically red or dark red. They only had one layer, so it was not easy for him to enter their dreams. The spiritual bodies of summoners were colorful and could change. However, the colors did not represent their realms, but their physical or emotional state at that moment. What truly represented a summoner's cultivation was the protective layer of the spiritual body. Those of the One Sun realm and below only had one protective layer. Those at the Two Sun realm had 2 layers. Those at the Three Sun realm had 3 layers, and so on. The protective layer of a summoner's spiritual body had 3 foundation establishment realm pearls and the aura of the secret mandala. It formed a powerful defense that easily blocked him from entering their dreams. Although the protective layer of a martial artist's spiritual body was stronger than that of an ordinary person, he could still enter and influence their dreams. The dream demon controls ordinary people. Could it be that he uses this method to enter the dreams of ordinary people and turn them into his puppets? If that's the case, could the dream demon's way of entering other people's dreams be through this spiritual realm? Xiao Pingan muttered to himself. His mind jolted. If that's the case, then I should be able to find the dream demon through the spiritual realm. I can try. The more Xiao Pingan thought about it, the more he felt that this was the case. Why was the dream demon so strange? Why was no one able to track him down? It was because the dream demon used the spiritual realm to invade and control others. He never revealed himself, so no one knew his identity. To enter the spiritual realm, one had to integrate at least 18 Dream Master Realm Pearls. There were only 13 Dream Master Realm Pearls with spiritual sense crystals. However, this did not mean that others could not integrate 18 Dream Master Realm Pearls. Perhaps the Dream Demon had his own opportunities and methods. Xiao Pingan immediately started running in the spiritual realm. Running here was effortless. Xiao Pingan ran on the ground of the spiritual realm as though he was flying. He passed through layers of gray fog and explored the environment of the spiritual realm. Chapter 317. The land of the spiritual realm was like an endless wilderness shrouded in gray fog, with no end in sight. Xiao Pingon was in this wilderness, driving away the layers of fog as he ran. Xiao Pingon arrived at a place, and with a thought, the gray fog around him dispersed, revealing the appearance of the surrounding environment. Xiao Pingon wanted to try and see if he could fly, but unfortunately, as he thought about it, he only felt the wind circling around him, blowing away the gray mist. However, his body was still unable to fly, and he felt that he was still lacking a little, so he obediently ran on the ground. And no matter how Xiao Pingon ran, he could clearly feel the location of the Golden Arch and the spiritual realm god temple, so he did not have to worry about getting lost. After running for a while, Xiao Pingon found that the originally flat ground in front of him had a huge bulge, forming a huge mound dozens of meters high. This made Xiao Pingon very excited. After running to the top of the mound, Xiao Pingon was shocked, because on top of the mound, he saw a pitch-black coffin and a collapsed giant tree. The collapsed giant tree was like a desert poplar that had been air-dried for thousands of years. It had an ancient aura and was hard to the touch, and the coffin was chiseled out of the trunk of the collapsed giant tree. It looked a little rough, and in the coffin, there was a human skeleton. The skeleton's clothes had already decayed to ashes, revealing the bones inside. Everything looked so strange. Xiao Pingon suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. Just now, he thought that only he and the dream demon could enter the spiritual realm. It was like a strange dreamland, and no one would die in the spiritual realm. But now, it seemed that this was not the case at all. The stars in the sky and the souls of the clusters of light might not die, and in his current state, he might also die. There used to be people here, and people here could also die. If he was hurt here, it was also possible that he would die and become the same as the skeleton in the coffin. Like a basin of cold water poured over his head, Xiao Pingon's restless heart calmed down. He only wanted to find the dream demon, but if he met the dream demon at this moment, and the dream demon discovered him, would he be killed here? Become the same as the skeleton? This was hard to say. Xiao Pingon looked at the skeleton in the coffin and found that although the skeleton in the coffin was covered in a layer of ashes, the color of the skeleton under the ashes seemed to be somewhat abnormal. He gently reached out his hand and wiped the ashes on the skeleton's ribs, and immediately found that the skeleton's bones were actually golden. He gently knocked on them and found that the bones were like metal. He did not know how many years they had been lying here, but they did not decay. What kind of person's bones were actually golden? Was this a golden body? Beside the golden skeleton, there was a long sword with a scabbard. The sword looked like a tang saber and was about 3 feet long. Beside the long sword, there was a token. Xiao Pingon took out the long sword and the token, and gently pulled out the long sword. He found that the long sword was somewhat rusty, but it could still be used, and the blade was still sharp. The token was like black iron, and there were 2 lines of Xiaozhuan characters engraved on it. One line of Xiaozhuan characters was Spirit Herder, and the other line of Xiaozhuan characters was Sujio. Spirit Herder should be the identity of the owner of this golden skeleton, and Sujio should be this person's name or code name. This skeleton and the coffin were somewhat different. Xiao Pingon carefully searched around the coffin, and suddenly, outside the coffin, at the position where the skeleton's head pointed, he saw some Xiaozhuan characters engraved on the coffin. The spirit mountain has collapsed. The demon god has annihilated everything. The ruler of the spirit realm, the spiritual teacher of all the spirit shepherds, the Lord of Dreams, the guardian of all spirits, has fallen. The throne has been covered in dust. The spirit shepherds have kept their vows. They will guard all the spirits in the spirit realm that has turned into a wasteland. They will fight to the end. Sujio, these characters brought Xiao Pingon a huge amount of information. This information at least explained 2 things. The spirit world didn't seem to be like this before, but was guarded by God, and these spirit herders were the subordinates of that God. It was the demon god sovereign who turned this world into this. But why did the spirits in the sky need the protection of these spirit herders? Xiao Pingon didn't understand. No matter what, this showed that the exploration of the spirit world was fruitful. Xiao Pingan put away Su Jio's command medallion and placed it in his bosom. He then took his sword and carefully left the mound. With a thought, Xiao Pingan didn't let the surrounding gray fog completely disperse. Instead, he let the gray fog wrap around his body, and he hid in the gray fog to continue his search. This time, Xiao Pingan was much more hidden. Once he was far away, it was almost impossible to find him. The fog was hazy, as if there was a layer of gauze in between. Except for a slight reduction in visibility, it didn't have much of an effect. After leaving the mound, Xiao Pingan searched for a while and saw a tall building in front of him. It was blurry in the fog, standing in the wilderness like a castle. Xiao Pingan approached and found that it was really a tall castle. The castle looked like a rock that had been weathered for thousands of years. It had a vicissitude, and some parts of it had already collapsed. A small part of the castle's entrance tower had collapsed, but at the entrance, 2 words could be faintly seen: Spirit Herding Castle. Xiao Pingan drew his long sword and carefully approached the castle from the entrance. After entering the castle, he found that there was a long, dark passage inside. On both sides of the passage, there were stone statues that had experienced the vicissitudes of life holding weapons. Those stone statues were more than 3 meters tall and were completely black. They looked mighty. Many of the stone statues were damaged, but some were still intact. After walking for more than 10 meters, Xiao Pingan's hair stood on end. Without thinking, he rolled on the ground and threw himself forward. Then a huge stone mace smashed down on top of his head. Boom! A half-foot deep pit was smashed into the ground with a loud sound. Dust and dirt flew everywhere. The stone statues on both sides of the passage began to move. Their bodies began to rotate, causing dust to fall from their bodies. As soon as this stone statue moved, the other stone statues began to move as well. Even the incomplete stone statues began to move. One by one, the stone statues turned their heads and looked at Xiao Pingan with empty eyes. The scene in front of him almost made Xiao Pingan turn around and run away. But just as the stone statues surrounded him, Xiao Pingan suddenly found that this Su Jiu token in his pocket was a little hot. He quickly took it out. The pitch-black token emitted a faint golden light. As soon as the golden brilliance appeared, the stone statues that had begun to move suddenly stopped and began to return to their original positions. This token was the pass to enter the abandoned castle. Xiao Pingan understood. Seeing that the stone statues were no longer moving, Xiao Pingan directly hung the token on his waist and continued to carefully walk inside. After passing through the passage full of stone statues, he arrived at a square inside the castle. Seeing the square, Xiao Pingan once again took a deep breath because the square inside the castle was full of coffins. Hundreds of coffins were piled up in the castle. He walked up to the coffins and looked inside. Inside the coffins were golden skeletons and pale golden skeletons. Their clothes had completely rotted away. There were many rooms on the first floor of the castle. The layout was similar to that of a normal castle. In those rooms, the furniture and furnishings had completely decayed into dust. The whole castle was lifeless, like a haunted house. No, at least there were ghosts in a haunted house. There was nothing in this castle. There was no breath of life or life. It was as old as a stone. There was nothing on the first floor of the castle. Xiao Pingan followed the stairs of the castle to the second floor. The second floor was similar to the first floor, but there was a huge room that was completely open. It was slightly different. Outside the room, there were 3 words, Spirit Husbandry Hall. Xiao Pingan entered the Spirit Husbandry Hall and found that it was abnormally spacious. There were no furnishings in the hall. In the middle of the hall, there were a few black stone tablets that were about the height of a person. They were covered in dust. Xiao Pingan came in front of the first stone tablet and gently swept the dust off it. At the top of the stone tablet, there were 3 words carved in Xiaozhuan, dream summoning technique. Seeing these 3 words, Xiao Pingan was slightly surprised. There were only these 3 words on the stone tablet, but under these 3 words, the stone tablet was empty. There were no other words. There was only a dent in the middle of the stone tablet. It was about the size of a human palm when its 5 fingers were spread open, blowing away the dust on the stone tablet next to it. There were also 3 words in Xiaozhuan, dream puppet technique. There were no words on this stone tablet, but there was a depression in the middle of the stone tablet. Sweeping away the dust on the 3rd stone tablet, there were a few more words in Xiaozhuan, demon-slaying sword. On the 4th stone tablet, there were 3 words in Xiaozhuan, spirit-seeking technique. On the 5th stone tablet, there were 3 words in Xiaozhuan, dream creation technique. These 5 stone tablets stood in the middle of the hall. There were no words on them, but there was a depression in the middle of each stone tablet. Xia Pingan circled the stone tablets and looked at them for a while. After thinking for a while, he finally reached out and pressed his hand on the depression in the middle of the stone tablet that had the words, dream summoning technique. After a few seconds, the Xiaozhuan words on the black stone tablet lit up and turned golden. However, in the blink of an eye, the golden words dimmed again like a light bulb that had been extinguished. However, a message appeared in Xia Pingan's mind. Integrating 18 Dream Masters Realm Pearls could open the door to the spiritual realm temple. However, only after integrating 22 Dream Masters Realm Pearls could one learn the basic skills of a spirit husbandry in the Spirit Husbandry Castle. Chapter 318. Our army is about to rise. My dream yesterday was a bit strange. Sir, please help me realize my dream and see if it's auspicious or inauspicious. Li Yuan summoned Xia Pingan to the study room and worriedly said to Xia Pingan, "What kind of dream did my lord have?" At this moment, Xia Pingan's identity is Lu Wenjing, Li Yuan's advisor. Last night, I dreamt that I was sleeping on the bed, but I suddenly rolled down from the bed, and then maggots all over the floor crawled towards my body. It was too disgusting and frightening. I was scared awake. I don't know if this dream is auspicious or inauspicious. Xia Pingan glanced at Li Yuan. Li Yuan's expression was not good, but rather somewhat worried. Today, the heroes of the world are rising together. The Li family is about to rise, but Li Yuan suddenly had such a dream. It is understandable that his heart is anxious. Xia Pingan only pretended to ponder for a moment, and then said to Li Yuan, "Congratulations, my lord. Congratulations, my lord." Li Yuan was stunned. What is there to be happy about? My lord rolling down from the bed. That is His Majesty's intention. The maggots crawling on your body. That is the world's intention. Your Majesty's dream reminded this subject of something. This subject once heard that when Yang Guang ascended the throne, he once had a dream. He dreamt that the throne room was flooded. After that, he thought that this dream was not auspicious. So he built the Xing city and moved the capital to the Xing combined with your Majesty's dream. Yang Guang's dream of flooding the throne room is exactly in line with my lord's Yuan character. This time, my lord will definitely be victorious and establish a foundation for the Leaf family. Hearing Xia Pingan's words, Li Yuan's face immediately glowed red, and he became spirited. Good, good. This way, I can be at ease. The world of the realm pearl shattered in an instant. After the divine power poured into his body, Xia Pingan in the secret room slowly opened his eyes. In the gift box, there was only the realm pearl of Yining that he had once fused with. He had already completely fused with all the other realm pearls. This last realm pearl provided Xia Pingan with 38 points of divine power. The divine power limit in the secret mandala had increased to 5,418 points, and there were now 22 complete dream reliefs on the golden arches of the spirit realm temple. Xia Pingan let out a long sigh of relief. He should be able to enter the spirit realm again and learn the secret methods of the spirit realm in Spirit Husbandry Castle. In the next second, Xia Pingan appeared in the shrine of the spiritual realm. Xia Pingan didn't hesitate at all as he stepped into the high golden arched door and entered the spiritual realm once again. What's going on? When Xia Pingan entered the spirit realm again, he thought that he had gone to the wrong place. The dazzling starlight clusters that filled the sky had almost completely disappeared this time. Only 2 or 3 lonely stars remained in the sky, blinking one after another. Xia Pingan raised his head. The few lonely stars that were still there were slowly disappearing right before his eyes. The spiritual realm was pitch black. He couldn't have gone to the wrong place. The spiritual realm was still the spiritual realm, but why did the stars and light clusters in the sky disappear? Xiao Pingan thought for a moment and suddenly understood. Could it be? The sky was bright now, and everyone outside had basically woken up. Was that why the stars disappeared? Those stars should represent the spirits of people who were asleep. Spirits would only appear in this world when people were asleep and experience all kinds of strange dreams. Once they woke up, those spirits would naturally leave this world without the light from the sky. The gray fog that filled the entire spiritual realm seemed to have turned into a black fog. Visibility was pitifully low, and a summoner's night vision ability couldn't be used here. Xiao Pingan only remembered the general direction of Spirit Husbandry Castle. It was much more difficult to find Spirit Husbandry Castle in such a pitch-black environment and the wilderness of the spiritual realm. Thinking of the long swords carried by the Spirit Husbandry Castle and the stone statues guarding the castle, Xiao Pingan looked at the pitch-black fog and hesitated. Long swords were weapons used for battle, and those stone statues were also security measures that the Spirit Husbandry Castle set up to defend against intruders. If this spiritual realm wasn't dangerous and didn't have dangerous and fatal things, long swords and stone statues shouldn't have appeared. He hadn't been in the spiritual realm for long, and who knew what was in the black fog? Therefore, to be safe, he could still make it if he entered tonight. It would only take half a day. With this thought, Xiao Pingan directly withdrew from the spiritual realm and left the underground secret room. Walking out of the underground secret room, Xiao Pingan heard the chirping of birds in the courtyard outside. The bright morning sun had already shone in through the window in the living room. Bits of shiny golden spots were stuck to the walls of the living room, indicating that today was another good day. After fusing with so many realm beads last night and taking a small stroll in the spiritual realm, a night had passed just like that. Xiao Pingan walked into the courtyard and saw the iron-masked man holding a handful of wheat in his hand and feeding a few birds with great interest. Under the sunlight, the little black pig looked a lot more dispirited. Its eyes were wide open for fear that it would fall asleep again if it closed its eyes. When it heard the sound and saw Xiao Pingan walking out of the living room, the little black pig's body trembled, and a look of fear flashed in its eyes. Its whole body couldn't help but shrink into the corner. The child of fortune who was riding on the little pig giggled. Last night's nightmare left the little black pig with lingering fear. When it saw Xiao Pingan again, it almost had a psychological shadow. It was fine that it fell into the hands of Xiao Pingan in reality, but it didn't expect that even in its dream, it would be turned into a pig by Xiao Pingan and suffer all kinds of inhuman abuse. It was like taking a tour in hell. Seeing Xiao Pingan walking out, the iron-faced man threw all the wheat in his hand to those birds. Then, he turned around and threw a glance at Xiao Pingan. His eyes behind a mask moved as he said, "Congratulations, congratulations." Xiao Pingan knew that he couldn't hide it from the iron-masked man, so he said modestly, "It's just so. I still have to learn more from you. Where did you get so many realm beads?" "Haha, I met a benefactor yesterday, and the benefactor gave them to me." The iron-masked man was speechless. This was what it meant to be infuriated. Now that there was a material restriction in Shangjing City, one might not be able to buy a realm bead even if they had the money. It was so difficult for others to get a realm bead, but this guy actually had someone to give him so many realm beads. "Let's go and eat something. I'm a little hungry." As Xiao Pingan spoke, he rubbed his growling stomach and walked towards the door of the courtyard. Having just advanced to the Five-Sun realm, his body was in need of a lot of nourishment. Xiao Pingan felt that he could eat a pig now. As he walked out of the courtyard, a thought flashed across Xiao Pingan's mind. Could it be that the 22 Dream Masters realm beads were all the Dream Masters realm beads? He still had many stories of ancient people interpreting dreams in his mind. The 22 Dream Masters realm beads were only a part of them. Moreover, the 22 Dream Masters realm beads did not have any specific pattern of appearance and did not seem to be the end. More importantly, from the information that Xiao Pingan received, The spiritual realm's techniques in the spirit husbandry castle were only the basic techniques of the spiritual realm's spirit husbandry. Those basic techniques could be learned by fusing with the 22 Dream Master's realm beads. Above those basic techniques, there should be techniques of a higher level. The spirit husbandry's techniques should not be limited to these. He wondered if he would need to fuse with more Dream Master's realm beads to learn the higher level techniques. The carriages of the Eastport District's 4 big carriages were waiting outside the alley. 2 humans and a pig directly boarded the carriage. Xiaoping asked the coachman to go to the most famous tea house nearby for breakfast. Brother Iron Mask, other than the rare realm beads that we know of, do you think there are other realm beads that we don't know that are even rarer? Sitting in the carriage and watching the carriage move, Xiaoping casually asked the Iron Masked Man. Of course there are. The Iron Masked Man said without thinking. The so-called rare realm beads are only rare in number, but they can be obtained repeatedly. It's not a secret, but above the rare realm beads, there are some realm beads that are even rarer. They are called secret treasure realm beads and have almost never appeared on the market. Xiaoping was suddenly energized. There are such realm beads? Of course there are. I once saw someone obtain a realm bead that was never recorded in the complete collection of realm beads in a void secret realm. That's the secret treasure realm bead. The secret treasure realm beads are too rare. It's hard for a normal summoner to find 2 secret treasure realm beads that are exactly the same in their lifetime. Those who obtain the secret treasure realm beads will either take the risk to fuse with it or secretly find a way to do it. Everything is kept secret and no one knows about it. Are there summoners who reveal the secret treasure realm beads to the public after obtaining them? Yes, but there are very few of them. The Iron Masked Man asked, if you obtain a secret treasure realm bead that's worth millions, will you reveal it to the public? Xiaoping thought for a while and shook his head. That's it. Whether it's the secret method brought by the secret treasure realm bead or its value, it's determined that it won't be known by too many people. The more secret it is, the better. How do you get those secret treasure realm beads? Of course, in the void secret realm. It said that they're the most secret treasure realm beads in the dark sect. Xiaoping nodded thoughtfully. After a while, the carriage arrived at the tea house where they had breakfast. The little black pig was also hungry. It wanted to follow them into the tea house, but it was stopped by the waiter at the entrance. Ahem, dear guests, our tea house doesn't allow guests to bring pets in. The waiter didn't know the identities of Xiaoping and the Iron Masked Man, but he still explained politely when he saw their extraordinary bearing. Xiaoping told the little black pig to wait in the carriage while he entered the tea house with the Iron Masked Man. Xiaoping almost turned the breakfast into a feast. Xiaoping ate almost 5 servings of the most expensive and nutritious food in this tea house. It took him 1 hour to finish breakfast. After finishing breakfast, he brought out a basket of 8 treasures prawn dumplings. The total cost was less than 2 gold coins. After returning to the carriage, the moment Xiaoping took out the 8 treasures prawn dumplings, the little black pig immediately pounced on it. It didn't care about its image as an expert anymore. It just ate whatever the pig ate. Half an hour later, the carriage slowly arrived outside the supervision office of Donggang. The street was still the same as yesterday. The atmosphere was a bit tense. There were policemen patrolling everywhere. The moment Xiaoping and the Iron Masked Man got off the carriage and were about to enter the supervision office, a policeman patrolling the street beside the supervision office suddenly took out his pistol and fired several shots at Xiaoping's head and back. The gunshot caused chaos on the street. Chapter 319. The moment the policeman pulled out his gun, the Iron Masked Man and Child of Fortune noticed it almost at the same time. Child of Fortune warned Xiaoping, and the Iron Masked Man was indeed a 7-sun realm expert. He immediately set up a thick water barrier around himself and Xiaoping. Xiaoping turned around, and the bullet was already flying towards him. Pa! 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 The crisp sound of a gunshot reverberated on the street, instantly breaking the order and peace on the street. The policeman fired at Xiaoping as he rushed towards Xiaoping. His face was numb. but there was a hint of malevolence in his numbness. The policeman didn't shoot ordinary bullets, but rune bullets. The rune bullets hit the water barrier set up by the iron-masked man, bursting into brilliant and scorching flames, setting the surrounding air ablaze. Right in front of Xia Ping'an's eyes, the copper bullet penetrated the rippling water curtain. It was still spinning at high speed within the water curtain like an awl, trying to break free from the shackles of the water curtain shield. Ordinary bullets would float in the water in the blink of an eye and lose all their power. Ordinary handgun bullets had a killing range of less than half a meter in the water, but the bullets shot by the policeman made the water barrier set up by the iron-masked man continuously change shape like deformed jelly. The bullets continued to move forward in the water. These were rune bullets with fireball and armor-piercing effects. Even if Xia Ping'an was a 5-sun realm, or even a 6-sun realm summoner, his body would be instantly pierced through if he was hit by such a bullet. He would be severely injured even if he didn't die from the flames that could melt steel. Xia Ping'an's expression changed slightly. The iron-masked man lightly stomped his foot, and a brilliance flashed under the feet of the policeman who was rushing over. The policeman was instantly fixed in place, and then a large net made of water rope flew over and trapped the policeman. The policeman fell to the ground, and the 9 bullets in his pistol had just run out. In the next second, the policeman's eyes rolled back, and he fainted. The whole process only took 2 to 3 seconds. The pedestrians on the street ran away in a panic. The other patrolling policemen and garrison soldiers were alarmed and rushed over. The people in the inspection department of Donggang were also alarmed. Luo Laoji was the first to run out of the gatehouse, followed by Long Chao, Sidu Hua, and the others. If someone opened fire outside the inspection department and no one in the inspection department knew about it, then the summoners in the inspection department would be useless. The street was in a state of confusion. Xia Ping'an didn't care about those people who rushed towards him. He just stretched out his hand and took out a brass bullet from the water curtain in front of him. After that, he turned around and walked towards the supervision department. When he passed by Long Chao and the others, he told them calmly, "Take them to the supervision department for interrogation." Yes, Long Chao and Sidu Hua rushed out of the door and saw that a large part of the ground where Xia Ping'an had been assassinated had been melted by the high temperature of the fireball. Even a small part of the iron gate of the inspection department had melted into molten iron. Their expressions changed at the same time. How dare they try to assassinate someone in the inspection department? How dare they? Half an hour later, in Xia Ping'an's office, Long Chao, Situ Hua, Hua Ziqin, Fan Gang, Fong Nu, and the others all gathered in Xia Ping'an's office. Their faces were filled with worry and anger. That assassin actually tried to assassinate the Donggang inspector at the entrance of the inspection department of Donggang. This was simply a humiliation and disregard to all the summoners in the inspection department of Donggang. If something happened to Xia Ping'an at the entrance of the inspection department of Donggang, they would become the laughingstock of the Judgment Army. The reputation of being a good-for-nothing would follow them for the rest of their lives. Therefore, everyone had a reason to be angry. They were waiting for Xia Ping'an's order. Everyone knew that their inspector wasn't someone who could take a loss lying down. These people still didn't know that Xia Ping'an had been assassinated in the inspection department of Donggang yesterday and had almost turned into sand under the black demon poison. Xia Ping'an's face was calm beyond the expectations of those captains. Sitting behind his desk, Xia Ping'an was gently turning and playing with a copper bullet in his hand. His eyes were deep. "Sir, that policeman who tried to assassinate you has already woken up. But no matter how we interrogated him, he kept saying that he was innocent and that he didn't know anything. He even asked why we captured him. I suggest that we immediately torture that person and use a confession potion. We must catch the mastermind behind this." Long Chao angrily reported to Xia Ping'an, "Don't bother. That policeman is just a puppet controlled by someone. He can't do anything. Just hand him over to the police." Xia Ping'an said calmly. The person who did it was still Nightmare. His method was the same as how he controlled Wei Meiyu. That policeman probably didn't know where the rune bullets in his gun came from. "Sir, do you already know who did it?" Hua Ziqin raised her eyebrows and asked. "Yes, I roughly know a little, but I don't know where that guy is hiding. I will let everyone know if we take action. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Everything in the inspection department is going on as usual. All right, everyone go back to work. These days, the capital is a little chaotic. Arrange for 2 teams to go out and patrol every time you encounter a summoner or a restless person who harasses the people. If you encounter a summoner, you will be severely punished. Several team captains looked at each other and replied with a yes before leaving Xiaoping's office one after another. This isn't the way. After those people left, the iron-masked man appeared in Xiaoping's office and shook his head gently. You can't always be on guard against everyone around you. If this goes on, even if you don't die, you will probably go crazy. Even I don't have the ability to maintain a state of high alert at all times. If you don't find that nightmare, you will lose your life as long as you are careless. It doesn't matter. Let that guy be arrogant for 2 more days. At most, I will live in seclusion for the next few days and see what he can do. Seeing that Xiaoping was not nervous and seemed to have a well-thought-out plan, the iron-masked man didn't say anything more and returned to his room. Not long after the iron-masked man left, Wei Miu knocked on the door and entered. "Sir, someone from the Rock King Auction House is here. He said he wants to give you something." "Oh, let the person from the Rock King Auction House in." "Yes." After a while, a man in a black suit that Xiaoping had seen at the auction house came into the office with a suitcase in his hand. After greeting Xiaoping, he opened the suitcase, took out a box from the suitcase, and placed it in front of Xiaoping. "Sir, this is the realm pearl that you bought at the VIP auction house that night. I brought it to you." Xiaoping opened the box to take a look. Inside the box was a realm pearl that was flashing with a faint red light. The words Crown Prince Pill were flashing in the realm pearl, and there was also a divine sense crystal to match it. This was also the assassin realm pearl. If it could be fused, Xiaoping would be able to summon a level 2 assassin. A level 2 assassin was much more powerful than a level 1 assassin. This realm pearl was the one that Xiaoping had bought at the Rock King auction house that night. Just by looking at the words on this realm pearl, Xiaoping knew that this realm pearl was meant to allow the user to fuse with the Crown Prince Pill and win over Jingku, so that Jingku would be willing to risk his life to assassinate Qin Dynasty. The divine telekinesis crystal that matched this assassin realm pearl didn't appear at the auction that night. "Is this the only one?" "Sir, you bid 40,000 gold coins for the giant realm pearl in the auction house that night. After you left, someone bid 42,500 gold coins for the giant realm pearl. Therefore, you didn't get it." "All right, I got it. I didn't expect you to match it with a divine telekinesis crystal. How much does it cost?" Xiaoping said as he was about to take out some gold notes. Madame Xian said that this assassin realm pearl is a token of appreciation from the Rock King auction house. Therefore, you don't have to pay for it. The man from the Rock King auction house had already stood up and bowed slightly to Xiaoping again. "Sir, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." "All right. Please send my regards to Madame Xian." Xiaoping didn't stand on ceremony as he accepted the assassin realm pearl. Not long after that man left, when Xiaoping was playing with the assassin realm pearl of Yin Crown Prince Pill, Wei Miu knocked on the door and came in to report that a man was here to deliver something to Xiaoping on the order of Linny. Xiaoping asked him to come in. After that man came in, he directly took out a leather case from his space teleportation equipment and placed it in front of Xiaoping. After asking Xiaoping to sign for it, he turned around and left without saying anything. After opening the leather case, Zhang Tai found 1,000,000 gold notes and 10 rare realm pearls in it. These were the things that Lin Yi had promised to give to Xiaoping. They were delivered here today. Why would someone queue up to deliver a realm pearl to you? The Iron Masked Man appeared in Xiaoping's office. Looking at the realm pearls and gold notes in the leather case, his eyes turned red. Damn it, it's too exciting to be with Xiaoping. This guy had just advanced to the Five Suns realm last night. Early in the morning, someone queued up to deliver a realm pearl and gold notes to him. Is the position of Envoy Inspector really so good? Why didn't I know about it before? If every Envoy Inspector in Shangjing City was so good, Seven Suns realm Envoy Inspectors would be everywhere in Shangjing City. Xiaoping smiled. This is my character." As he spoke, Xiao Pingan took out another gold note worth 100,000 gold coins from the leather case and handed it to the iron-masked man. "This is for you. You've worked hard for the past 2 days, looking at the gold note worth 100,000 gold coins. 2 small courtyards in Shangjing City." The iron-masked man struggled for a second as he hesitated between his pride as a powerhouse and the glory of the gold note. However, in the end, before Xiao Pingan retracted his hand, the iron-masked man took the gold note and struggled for a while before spitting out 2 words: "Thanks." Chapter 320. "Your Highness, this is..." Jing Ke looked at the things that Xiao Pingan had people bring in with a shocked expression. Several attendants stood in front of Jing Ke with bowed bodies. On the plates in their hands were 4 pairs of lifelike and polished hands of beauties. "Ha ha ha! Qing Jing, didn't you say that the girl's hands were beautiful a few days ago? These days I asked all the skilled craftsmen in the Yin Kingdom to sculpt a pair of golden hands, a pair of silver hands, a pair of jade hands, and a pair of bronze hands according to the appearance of the girl's hands. I'll give these 4 pairs of hands, together with the girl playing the zither, to Qing Jing. You can enjoy them to your heart's content in the future." Xiao Pingan laughed out loud. "Your Highness, why do you have to do this?" Jing Ke sighed as he looked at the 4 pairs of magnificent hands and the gentle and beautiful girl playing the zither in front of him. Xiao Pingan smiled. As time flies, beauties age easily. These hands of beauties will not be so perfect and beautiful in a few more years. However, these 4 pairs of hands of beauties can be preserved in the world for thousands of years. After thousands of years, when you and I are no longer here, these 4 pairs of hands of beauties can still be preserved. When people see these 4 pairs of hands of beauties, they will know what kind of hands of beauties can make Qing Jing fall in love with them. You and I will leave behind a good story for the future generations." Jing Ke was moved. Such a gift was too special. He had never received such a gift before. These days, Crown Prince Dan had built a mansion for him, gifted him beauties, gold, silver, and treasures. These are all normal things. However, these 4 pairs of hands of beauties and Crown Prince Dan's words just now revealed a sense of sincerity, which made Jing Ke speechless. "Jing Ke, thanks, Your Highness." Jing Ke bowed deeply to Xiao Pingan. After that, he waved his hand to dismiss the girl playing the zither and the attendants. After that, he said to Xiao Pingan, "I've already understood Your Highness's intention. However, if we want to get close to assassinate Emperor Qin, we need 2 more things. What else does Qing Jing need? I also need Fan Yuqi's severed head and the map of Shengdi Governor Kong. If I present these 2 things to Emperor Qin will not be suspicious and will have a chance to get close to Emperor Qin." Not long after, the world of the Realm Pearl shattered and Xiao Pingan opened his eyes in the resting room of the inspection department. Fusing with this Realm Pearl wasn't difficult. In the real history, when Crown Prince Dan praised the beautiful hands of the zither girl in order to win over Jing Ke, Crown Prince Dan did a very cruel thing in the blink of an eye. He directly chopped off the hands of the zither girl and gave her bloody hands to Jing Ke. In order to make Jing Ke risk his life for him, the Crown Prince Dan was willing to do anything. Cutting off the hand of a beauty and giving it to Jing Ke was actually not a gift, but a harvest. He wanted Jing Ke to use his life in exchange for this favor. In the end, Jing Ke had no choice but to do so. If he did not do so, he would become an ungrateful villain. Crown Prince Dan was an ambitious and ruthless person. Xiao Pingan did not chop off the hands of the zither-playing beauty. Even the realm bead, he did not want to do such a thing. A real man had to do what he could and could not do. He gathered the craftsmen of the Yin Kingdom and made 4 pairs of hands of beauties. Together with the woman, he gave them to Jing Ke. Reality proved that Jing Ke was moved and was willing to assassinate Qin. After the fusion of the realm beads was completed, the relief sculpture of the summoning assassin in the secret mandala expanded. In addition to Tian Guanluan's bravery, there was also the story of how Crown Prince Dan gave the hands of a beauty to win over Jing Ke. The The summoning position of the assassin in the relief sculpture also changed. The assassin's appearance seemed more illusory and crafty. This was a second-grade assassin. This was the last realm bead to be fused today. Xiao Pingan finished fusing with the 10 realm beads that Lin Yi sent over in one afternoon. To be honest, Lin Yi was still a little stingy. Among the 10 realm beads he sent over, 8 were realm beads with divine power and only 2 realm beads with summoning positions. Of the 2 realm beads, one was Duke Mu of Qin lost his horse, and the other was Uncle Yang teaches King Chu archery. Duke Mu of Qin lost his horse, allowed Xiao Pingan to summon soldiers in the wilderness, while Uncle Yang teaches King Chu archery, allowed Xiao Pingan to summon archers. Soldiers in the wilderness were more powerful than elite slave soldiers. Soldiers in the wilderness could fight like a regular army and had the ability to hunt. Back then, Duke Mu of Qin lost his beloved horse. As a result, his beloved horse was caught and eaten by a group of people living on a mountain. Then, the officials of Qin State caught those people who ate Duke Mu of Qin's beloved horse and sent them to Duke Mu of Qin, asking him to punish them. Unexpectedly, after Duke Mu of Qin knew what had happened, he told those people that a gentleman would not harm others with animals. After eating horse meat, one would easily hurt others if one didn't drink wine. Therefore, he rewarded those people with fine wine. Later, Duke Mu of Qin attacked the Jin Kingdom and was besieged by the Jin Kingdom's army. He was on the verge of death. Hearing the news, those mountain people who had been eating his horses and drinking his wine formed a dare-to-die assault team of more than 300 people. They forcibly rescued Duke Mu of Qin from the siege of the Jin Kingdom's army and turned defeat into victory. However, as long as one had enough divine power, they could summon an unlimited number of elite slave soldiers, while they could only summon 360 soldiers in the wilderness. After half a day, Xiao Pingan merged with another 11 realm beads in his resting room. The divine power limit of the secret mandala reached 5,756 points. He was closer to the 6,930 points of the Six Sun realm. Xiao Pingan walked out of the resting room. It was evening outside the window. It was almost time for the inspection department to get off work. Xiao Pingan called the iron-masked man and left the inspection department with the little black pig. They went to the roadside and called a carriage to the bank of the Shang dynasty. An hour later, Xiao Pingan came out of the bank. Most of the gold notes on him had been exchanged for gold coins and stored in his spatial warehouse. The carriage passed by a bustling street and randomly found a restaurant to have a sumptuous dinner. When he returned to his rented courtyard in Changle Alley, the sky was already dark. Xiao Pingan returned to his room and had a good sleep. When he woke up a few hours later, it was already late at night. Xiao Pingan walked out of his room energetically. The tiredness and confusion that came from merging dozens of realm beads disappeared after a good night's sleep. It was completely silent outside. Only the sound of insects could be heard. The courtyard was filled with moonlight. Xiao Pingan came to the living room and saw the iron-masked man sitting in the dark room like a statue. He was startled. "Why aren't you sleeping? You gave me a fright," Xiao Pingan said. "Aren't you awake too?" "I just took a nap. I'm going to the secret room to study the changes in the secret mandala." It's the same for me to meditate here." The iron-masked man nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. Xiao Pingan didn't say anything and directly entered the secret underground chamber. He thought to himself, "The 100,000 gold coins I spent today were well worth it." After taking the gold coins, the iron-masked man became even more diligent in his job as a bodyguard. A few minutes later, Xiao Pingan entered the spiritual realm through the golden arch again. The night in the spiritual realm seemed to be as bright as day. The sky was full of brilliance. The stars appeared again, and everything in the spiritual realm became lively again. Xiao Pingan took the waist token and long sword of the spirit herder and silently entered the gray mist. The spiritual realm was completely different from the real world. Xiao Pingan had tried before. The waist token and long sword of the spiritual realm could only be brought to the spiritual realm shrine in the secret mandala. They couldn't be brought to the real world at all. Xiao Pingan let the gray mist wrap around his body and hide his tracks. He ran on the ground and quickly rushed towards the spirit herder castle he saw yesterday. But after a few minutes, Xiao Pingan felt that something was wrong and suddenly stopped in the gray mist. Xiao Pingan felt that there was something in the sky. He looked up and saw that the souls of the stars in the sky were entangled by a black thing, which made them look dim. If it weren't for the black thing wriggling and causing the stars to flicker strangely, he wouldn't have noticed it. Xiao Pingan was shocked when he took a closer look. He didn't know what the black thing entangled on the stars was. The monster had a snake-like body and was covered in black scales. However, it had 6 ant-like legs and a pair of huge antennae on the monster's forehead. They were like suction cups that were sucking on the spiritual stars in the sky. Chapter 2 later. Chapter 3:21. The astral avatar that was entangled by those monsters was trembling slightly, and the light of the astral avatar dimmed bit by bit. All of a sudden, the monster that Xiao Pingan was observing abruptly turned its head, revealing a pair of scarlet eyes as it looked at Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan's gaze seemed to have been noticed by the monster that was sucking on the astral soul. Not good. Xiao Pingan didn't expect the monster to be so sensitive to stares. The moment the monster turned its head, Xiao Pingan hurriedly looked away and suddenly lay on the ground. His body rolled sideways and rolled down the slope under his feet. His body rolled like a wheel against the ground and directly rolled to a depression more than 30 meters away, where he stopped moving. The gray fog around him rolled, hiding Xiao Pingan's body in the thick fog. An invisible force with violent hostility suddenly descended from the sky. Like a sickle, it swept away a large part of the gray fog near where Xiao Pingan was hiding, revealing the barren and desolate ground. The fog that was swept away spread out a few meters away from Xiao Pingan's body. A few more meters to the side, and Xiao Pingan's body would be revealed in the gray fog. Seeing that there was nothing on the ground, the monster in the sky stared for a while, then turned its head and continued to attach itself to the astral avatar. Xiao Pingan lay on the ground for a while, waiting for the surrounding fog to spread out. Then he stood up. He only glanced at the sky from the corner of his eyes, but didn't look at it for long. Then he used the fog to cover his body, slowed down, and left the place step by step. When he was a little farther away, he continued to run. Under the cover of the gray fog, he rushed in the direction of the spirit husbandry castle. There were too many secrets in the spirit world, and this spirit world, as he had guessed before, was very dangerous. The monster in the sky just now made Xiao Pingan feel danger, extreme danger. After rushing through the wilderness for a while, Xiao Pingan saw the slope where he had discovered Xiao Pingan. Then, at this moment, the surrounding gray fog suddenly dissipated, and Xiao Pingan's figure was suddenly exposed in the wilderness. The wind whistled in the sky. Xiao Pingan turned his head and saw the monster that had attached itself to the astral projection twisting its 30-meter-long body like a wild python and pouncing towards him from the sky. Its blood-red eyes were fixed on him, and it had obviously discovered him. F***CK. The monster had let down its guard on purpose just now to lure him out. Since he had already been discovered, and he was in the middle of nowhere, Xiao Pingan did not hesitate to use all his strength and speed to rush towards the spirit husbandry castle. The monster in the sky suddenly sped up. Its black body emitted a red light as it sped towards Xiao Pingan. 2 minutes later, the monster had rushed to Xiao Pingan's head. Just a few dozen meters in the air, the monster's body swooped down and rushed towards Xiao Pingan. When it was less than 10 meters above the ground, the monster opened its mouth and shot a few streaks of black gas at Xiao Pingan like arrows. Xiao Pingan rolled on the ground to avoid it, and the black gas shot to the ground. With a sizzling sound, it corroded several large holes in the ground. Xiao Pingan bounced on the ground like a cheetah and continued running as fast as lightning. The monster spat out 2 streaks of black gas at Xiao Pingan, but Xiao Pingan dodged them both. In the next second, the monster seemed to be a little anxious. Its snake-like body swelled in the air, and a red light flashed as it sped up. Its spear-like forelimbs grabbed at Xiao Pingan's back from the air. Its huge tail was like a snake, whipping in the direction that Xia Pingan could dodge. However, Xia Pingan's reaction was even more out of the monster's expectations. Just as the monster accelerated its dive to attack, Xia Pingan's body suddenly leaped up from the ground. His feet stomped hard on the ground, creating a shallow pit. Xia Pingan's figure suddenly left his original direction and somersaulted backwards, leaping up in an instant. The monster's two attacks missed at the same time, but Xia Pingan suddenly flew to the top of the monster's head, and the difference between the two changed instantly. Clang! Xia Pingan's spirit herder sword was unsheathed, and a cold light flashed in the air. The long sword seemed to have been left there for many years. Although it looked a little rusty, it was still sharp. Xia Pingan used the long sword in his hand to directly cut off one of the two suction, cup-like tentacles on the monster's head. After that, he did a somersault in the air and nimbly rode on the back of the monster's head, which was equivalent to 7 inches of the snake's body. The monster let out an unpleasant scream, and its body trembled violently, almost falling to the ground. "I'll let you spit." Xia Pingan's legs clamped tightly on the monster's neck as if he was clamping on a roller coaster. He firmly rode on the monster's neck, and the long sword in his hand swung again, cutting off the other tentacle on the monster's head. The monster's body rolled, spasmed, and suddenly rushed into the sky. Xia Pingan gritted his teeth and wanted to pierce the monster's head with the long sword again, but he found that the long sword in his hand could not pierce the monster's scales at all. Every time he stabbed, the long sword in his hand would leave a trail of sparks on the monster's body. The tentacles on the monster's head seemed to be its only weakness, which could be cut off by the long sword in his hand. The long sword could not pierce the other parts of the monster's body. Seeing that the monster was about to rush into the sky, Xia Pingan somersaulted and jumped down from the monster's neck. As soon as he landed, he rolled a few times to release the strength in his body, and then continued to run in the direction of the Spirit Herder Castle. At this moment, the vague outline of the Spirit Herder Castle appeared in Xia Pingan's sight. Another strange cry came from the sky. Xia Pingan looked back and saw that the monster had flown into the sky again. After getting rid of him, it rushed toward him fiercely. The two tentacles on the monster's head were just cut off by him, but in just a short while, the two tentacles on the monster's head grew back. Damn, how can I fight this? Xia Pingan had no choice but to run toward the Spirit Husbandry Castle with all his might. Not only that, but the other monsters in the sky also seemed to be alarmed and flew toward Xia Pingan together. The monster chasing Xia Pingan changed from 1 to 4. A few minutes later, Xia Pingan rolled and crawled, dodging a few more corrosive black gas attacks. However, he could not avoid the tail attack of another monster that suddenly rushed out from the side. He could only roar and slash at the tail with his long sword. The long sword drew a line of sparks in the air, and Xia Pingan was sent flying more than 20 meters away by a huge force. Xia Pingan's body shook violently, and his whole body felt like it was going to fall apart. He vomited blood and found that he had vomited golden blood in the spiritual realm. The pain was no different from the pain he felt in the real body. After vomiting 2 mouthfuls of golden blood, Xia Pingan felt that his body suddenly became weaker. The aura of death was quickly approaching. Xia Pingan turned over and got up from the ground. He did not dare to stay for half a second longer. While vomiting blood, he gritted his teeth and ran toward the Spirit Herder Castle. At this critical moment, Xia Pingan found that the 2 monsters closest to him were shocked. They stopped chasing at the same time, as if they had encountered something terrifying. They turned around and flew back at the same time. Then, Xia Pingan saw a tall stone man rush out of the Spirit Herder Castle in front of him. The stone golem held the sledgehammer, and its eyes flashed with blue light. It took large strides and rushed toward its location. The stone golem's body exuded a boundless and ancient aura. Mysterious blue runes flickered on the golem's body. One of the monsters that was chasing him seemed unwilling to give up. It was still biting toward Xia Pingan. The stone man was furious. He let out a thunderous roar and shouted the word thunder that shook the surroundings. The blue runes on his body lit up, and he raised the huge war hammer in his hand hundreds of meters away. A blue lightning suddenly fell from the void and blasted the unwilling monster. The monster fell from the sky and fell to the ground, a large piece of its scales falling off. Before the monster could get up again, the stone man had already rushed forward. He raised the war hammer in his hand again and shouted the word hammer again. Then, he smashed the monster's head with the hammer. The ground shook as if a heavy bomb had landed on the ground. The stone man's hammer smashed a big hole where the monster's head was. The monster's head was smashed into pieces. The monster's body did not heal. Instead, it turned into a black mist and dissipated in front of Xiaopingan. In the end, only a fist-sized ball of golden light was left floating in the air. The tall stone man opened his mouth and sucked the ball of golden light into his mouth. He swallowed it directly. Xiaopingan did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the runes on the stone man's body became brighter after he swallowed the ball of golden light. Some of the cracks on the stone man's body were also quietly repaired. Seeing this, the monsters in the sky flew further away, not daring to get close to the spirit herder castle. In the wilderness, the stone man raised the huge hammer in his hand and roared at the monsters in the sky. Xiaopingan struggled to stand up and spat out another mouthful of golden blood. As soon as the blood was spat out, it instantly turned into mist and dissipated. Xiaopingan's body seemed to have weakened a little, and he could not stand steadily. The tall stone man strode in front of Xiaopingan and half knelt on one knee. Then it reached out its big hand and carefully grabbed Xiaopingan. It placed Xiaopingan on its broad, stone-like shoulder. Then it took the stone hammer, stood up, turned around, and strode toward the spirit herder castle. Chapter 3:22. Thump, 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 thump. The tall stone statue took heavy steps and walked into the entrance of the spirit husbandry castle. As soon as it entered the spirit husbandry castle, the stone statue put Xiaopingan down from its shoulder. After arriving at the spirit husbandry castle, Xiaopingan felt a little better. At least he didn't vomit blood anymore. His body gradually recovered, but he still felt a little weak. Why was the blood he coughed out golden? Xiaopingan didn't know. He guessed that this might be the characteristic of a body that could enter the spirit realm. Anyway, vomiting blood wasn't a good thing. Moreover, the weakness he felt after vomiting blood was too obvious. Xiaopingan leaned against the entrance of the castle to rest. He panted and slowly recovered. At this moment, he discovered that the stone statue that had brought him back to the castle did not return to its original position. Instead, it took heavy steps and silently walked in front of another stone statue that had lost an arm. It extended a hand and pressed it against the stone statue. Blue runes appeared on the two stone statues at the same time. The runes on the stone statue that saved Xiaopingan were bright and dazzling, while the runes on the broken stone statue were relatively dim. There were fewer runes on its body. The stone statue that had saved Xiaopingan opened its mouth, and specks of golden light flew out of its mouth like fireflies. They fell on the body of the broken stone statue and were absorbed by the broken stone statue. Two more runes appeared on the broken stone statue, and the deep blue runes became slightly brighter. At the same time, the light on the stone statue that saved Xiaopingan dimmed a little. Seeing this scene, Xiaopingan was stunned. Was the stone statue saving the other stone statues here? Or was it saving its companion? The bits of golden light that flew out of the stone statue's mouth were too similar to the golden light left on the monster that was killed just now. The only difference was that one was bigger and the other was smaller. The next action of the stone statue that saved Xiaopingan confirmed his speculation. In the next few minutes, the stone statue kept repeating what it did just now. It kept walking to the front of the other incomplete and silent stone statues and put its hands on them. After that, it opened its mouth and let the firefly-like golden light fall on the other stone statues. After absorbing the golden light, the runes on the stone statues flickered and seemed to have recovered a little bit of vitality. After doing all this, the stone statue silently returned to its original position. It leaned on the giant hammer in its hand and remained motionless. The entire spirit husbandry castle returned to silence. At this time, Xiao Pingan was feeling much better. Thinking of his purpose of coming here, Xiao Pingan touched the remaining trace of golden blood on the corner of his mouth. His face became determined again, and he turned around and walked into the castle. Passing through the passage at the entrance of the castle and the small cold square full of coffins and corpses, Xiao Pingan soon arrived at the spirit husbandry hall on the second floor of the castle. He stood in front of the few black stone tablets again. This time, I should be able to learn the skills of these spirit husbandry. As Xiao Pingan thought to himself, he took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then he stretched out his hand and spread his fingers. He placed his hand in the middle of the stone tablet with the words Dream Summoning Technique written on it at the palm depression. In just an instant, a strange energy came from the black stone tablet and entered Xiao Pingan's body through his palm. He felt as if he had been electrocuted. Xiao Pingan closed his eyes, and his whole body trembled slightly. The complete secret method of dream spell appeared in Xiao Pingan's mind and merged with Xiao Pingan's body and consciousness. Just like instincts that Xiao Pingan had practiced for thousands of years, he quickly mastered it. In less than 3 minutes, Xiao Pingan's trembling gradually calmed down. He suddenly opened his eyes, exhaled deeply, and took a step back. So powerful, Xiao Pingan murmured to himself. So those stars are indeed the spirits of high-level life forms in the material world. Dream spell is true. The awesome thing about dream spell was that as long as he could lock on and find the other party's astral spirit, once the other party fell asleep, he could use dream spell to communicate and send messages to the other party in the dream. He could completely ignore the distance, and no one would know. After learning the dream summoning technique, Xiao Pingan came before the stone tablet with the dream puppet technique. He stretched out his hand and pressed it on the stone tablet. This time was the same as last time. In just a few minutes, Xiao Pingan had completely fused with the dream puppet technique. When he opened his eyes, Xiao Pingan could finally confirm that Dream Demon's method of controlling others was Dream Puppet Spell. Dream Puppet Spell's ability allowed the spirit herder to influence the other party's spirit when they were dreaming. He could plant a puppet seed in the other party's subconscious without them knowing, turning them into his puppet. Once certain external conditions appeared, the person controlled by Dream Puppet Spell would feel like they were dreaming. Their individual consciousness would be stripped away, and they would completely lose control and perception of their own body. They would become a puppet and do whatever the spirit herder wanted them to do. In the next 10 minutes, Xiao Pingan learned and mastered all the spirit-seeking spell, dream creation spell, and demon slaying sword in one go. Spirit-seeking spell allowed the spirit herder to lock onto the spirit he was looking for in the vast sea of astral stars. Dream creation spell allowed the person to unknowingly enter a specific dreamscape. This dreamscape was like some kind of powerful illusion spell, but it was even more magical and powerful. It could create an illusion in the mind and consciousness of the person who fell into it, making them unaware that they were in a dream. It was worth mentioning that dream creation spell could not only be used in the spirit realm, but it could also be used outside of the spirit realm. The last spell that Xiao Pingan learned was Demon Slaying Sword. Demon Slaying Sword was a spell technique that spirit herders used to kill horseshoe pests. The spirit herder's duty was to protect the astral stars in the spirit realm from the horseshoe pest's invasion. The astral bodies in the sky were the sheep herders herded by the spirit herders. The monsters that had chased after Xiao Pingan on the astral stars were horseshoe pests. Once astral bodies were entangled by horseshoe pests, they would enter a terrifying nightmare. In a nightmare, the horseshoe pests would devour the astral body's energy like parasites. At the same time, the astral body's energy would be converted into negative energy that would appear in the nightmare, such as fear, hatred, depression, sadness, and so on. The astral body's energy was the foundation of all life. Once the energy was exhausted, the physical body would have nothing to rely on and would definitely collapse. Ordinary people thought that the physical body was the vessel of the astral body, but it was a big mistake. Everyone's astral body was the vessel of the physical body. The astral body was like a magnet, and the physical body was just something attracted by the magnet. Once the magnet lost its magnetism, the attachment and attraction would no longer exist. Those astral stars were the vessels of the physical body. After mastering these skills, Xiaoping's mind was filled with a lot of information about the spirit realm and spirit herders. There were different levels of spirit herders. Xiaoping could only come into contact with 3 levels of spirit herders at the moment: beginner spirit herder, intermediate spirit herder, and advanced spirit herder. Above these 3 levels, there were even higher levels of spirit herders. However, Xiaoping could not come into contact with the information of these higher levels of spirit herders at the moment. The promotion of a spirit herder's level was closely related to the spirit herder's duties. The most important thing was the number of astral bodies that the spirit herder guarded. In addition, the spirit herder skills that he had learned in the spirit herding hall today could also be promoted at different levels. As long as the level of a spirit herder could be promoted, he would be qualified to enter a higher-level spirit herding castle and master the secret techniques of a higher level of spirit herding. The skills that a spirit herder could master were definitely not limited to these 5. At the same time, the horseshoe beetle that he had encountered today was not the only one. There were even higher-level horseshoe beetles in nightmares. Spirit herders and horseshoe beetles were natural enemies. Horseshoe beetles would become stronger by devouring spirit herders, and spirit herders would become stronger by killing horseshoe beetles. That's right, in the spirit realm, the most important thing was soul power. The golden light that the stone statue had devoured after killing the horseshoe beetle was the soul power of the horseshoe beetle. The stone statue's real name was the Spirit Castle Guard. The Spirit Castle Guard was the best companion of a spirit herder, and also the strongest force that protected the spirit herding castle. After mastering the devil-slaying sword, Xiaoping could clearly sense the state and amount of soul power in his body. There was no specific quantitative unit that could be used to measure soul power. However, Xiaoping could use the devil-slaying sword to measure the amount of soul power in his body. With his current soul power, using the devil-slaying sword required him to activate the soul power in his body. After a while, the soul power released by the skill would return to his body on its own, as if his body was recovering on its own. His current body could use the devil-slaying sword a little more than 4 times. It would be a bit difficult to use it 5 times. If he wanted to measure the amount of soul power he had, he could use 5 slashes to measure it. After figuring this out, Xiaoping did not stay in the spirit herding castle for long. Instead, he quickly left the castle. He was chased like a dog by the horseshoe beetles and almost lost his life. Now that he had the devil-slaying sword in his hand, Xiaoping could not wait to find the horseshoe beetles to test his sword on. Almost at the same time that Xiaoping left the spirit herding castle and stepped into the rolling gray fog, in another part of the spirit realm, the terrifying horseshoe beetles that were chasing after Xiaoping earlier were flying in circles in front of a human figure that had also appeared in the spirit realm. What? You saw another person in the spirit realm? Impossible. After understanding what the horseshoe beetles were trying to say, the human figure almost thought that the horseshoe beetles were playing with him and immediately shouted. Chapter 323. The man standing in front of the 3 locusts was an old man. The old man had silver hair and a silver beard. He was dressed in a white robe. His hair and beard were neat and tidy, giving off a delicate aura. At first glance, the old man's face looked kind and benevolent. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that his eyes were filled with endless hostility and deceit. At the same time, there were 2 blood-red, snake-shaped lines at the corners of his eyes that flew to his temples, giving him an unconcealable ferocity. If Xiaoping was here and saw the old man's face, he would definitely exclaim. Because the old man's face, except for the 2 blood-red, snake-shaped stripes at the corners of his eyes, was almost the same as the other person Xiaoping had seen on the Tianyuan Bridge. That person was the famous dream soothsayer on the Tianyuan Bridge, Master Shueiyue. In Xiaoping's eyes, Master Shueiyue was a failed summoner. She was a Jianghu gangster who used her dream-soothing skill to cheat people in Shangjing City in the name of a dream soothsayer. There were many such swindlers and hooligans in Shangjing City. Looking at the information revealed by the 3 flying insects, the old man's eyebrows knitted together, and many thoughts flashed through his mind. To be able to integrate 22 Dream Masters' realm pearls and open the spiritual realm's divine palace, to enter the spiritual realm was a gift from the demon sovereign. As far as he knew, in the entire Golden Moon continent, there was no one else who had such luck and ability. He was the only demon god's chosen one of the Blood Demon Church in the Golden Moon continent. Could it be that other than him, there was someone else in the Golden Moon continent who was favored by the demon sovereign? Impossible. Those who were favored by the demon dominator would not be attacked by flying insects. If the flying insects had not brought back the information, the old man would not have believed it. Where's the person you're talking about? The old man asked directly. The flying insects' bodies continued to twist in the air, changing into various shapes. In the nearest abandoned elementary spirit husbandry castle. And that person hasn't become a spirit husbandry yet? After receiving the news, a faint bloody light flashed across the old man's eyes. All right, I see. The old man waved his hand, and the 3 locusts wriggled their bodies and flew back into the sky. Soon, they each coiled around a star and wriggled. The old man narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of the spirit husbandry castle where Xiaopinggan was. Then, he flew into the gray fog and rushed in the direction of the spirit husbandry castle. Where are the cockroaches? Xiaopinggan searched the wilderness outside the spirit husbandry castle for a while, but he still couldn't find the 3 horseshoe beetles that were chasing him. Xiaopinggan thought that the 3 horseshoe beetles would be waiting for him outside the spirit husbandry castle. He didn't expect the 3 horseshoe beetles to disappear so quickly. Was it because the insect was so smart that it could predict that he might master the sword and run away in advance? Or were they scared away by the guards of the spirit castle? Right? If Nightmare was also in the spirit realm, would the horseshoe beetles attack him? Judging from the effect of the dream puppet technique that Nightmare had mastered, he should still be elementary spirit husbandry. Since Nightmare had mastered the dream puppet technique, it made sense that he would master the sword. Nightmare had been famous in the Blood Demon Church for a long time, which meant that he had been in the spirit realm for a long time. After such a long time, Nightmare was still an elementary spirit husbandry. His abilities hadn't improved at all, and he hadn't done much in the spirit realm. It felt strange. If those horseshoe beetles and Nightmare were in cahoots, then these questions ran through Xiaoping's mind twice. Xiaoping's eyes flashed, and he made a gesture for the spirit-seeking technique with both hands. Wei Meiyu's face flashed in his mind, and the spirit-seeking technique sensed something and pointed in a direction. Xiaoping's figure immediately changed direction and disappeared into the thick gray fog. About half an hour later, the old man's figure came out of the gray fog and appeared in the wilderness a few thousand meters away from the spirit husbandry castle. The old man didn't rush into the spirit husbandry castle immediately. Instead, he carefully walked around the spirit husbandry castle in the wilderness, carefully observing the surroundings. After confirming that there was no ambush outside the spirit husbandry castle, he slowly came to the entrance of the spirit husbandry castle. After observing the entrance for a while, he entered the spirit husbandry castle without making a sound. A moment later, the old man stood in the spirit husbandry hall on the 2nd floor of the spirit husbandry castle. He looked at the 5 black steels in the hall, and his expression changed. The palm-shaped dent in the middle of the 5 black steels was clean, and there was no dust. Clearly, someone had used it. Who could it be? The old man inexplicably felt an unprecedented sense of crisis. In the past, he had always felt that he was the only person who could enter and leave this spirit world, and that he was the master of this spirit world. He could do whatever he wanted in this world, but now there was a second person who could enter this spirit world. No matter what the background of the second person who could enter the spirit world was, it was a huge threat to him. At the same time, Xiao Pingan finally saw another horseshoe insect attached to the astral soul in the sky. There was only one. Xiao Pingan didn't do anything. He just stared at the horseshoe insect for a few seconds. The horseshoe insect immediately felt Xiao Pingan's gaze and turned its head. After looking at Xiao Pingan for 2 seconds, it suddenly broke away from the astral soul and rushed towards Xiao Pingan like a writhing snake. This horseshoe insect's reaction was exactly the same as the horseshoe insect Xiao Pingan had encountered before. It was as if it had seen the most delicious prey and jumped down in ecstasy. Xiao Pingan stood on the ground, holding the hilt of his sword in one hand and making a horseshoe sword gesture with the other hand. He stared coldly at the huge horseshoe insect that was rushing toward the ground. When the horseshoe insect was about 300 to 400 meters above the ground, Xiao Pingan finally unsheathed his longsword. Slash! The longsword in his hand gave out a blue light. It suddenly broke away from Xiao Pingan's hand and slashed at the horseshoe insect like a lightning bolt. When the longsword left Xiao Pingan's hand, it was still the same size. After flying for 10 meters, the longsword had doubled in size. After flying for another 10 meters, it doubled in size again. After flying for less than 50 meters, the long sword had turned into a huge sword that was more than 10 meters long. Its entire body was flickering with a faint blue light as it slashed through the void. The huge sword slashed through the horseshoe insect and almost completely cut it open from head to tail. The horseshoe insect's body turned into a black fog and disappeared. Only a ball of golden light fell and flew towards Xiao Pingan and directly entered Xiao Pingan's chest. The huge sword that cut through the sky circled around in the sky and then flew back, returning to its original size. Xiao Pingan silently observed the soul power in his body. The horseshoe sword just now temporarily consumed 1 slash of soul power. This 1 slash would be recovered in a month. However, the soul power in the ball of golden light that he had just fused with was 1.5 slash. Therefore, after killing the horseshoe insect, Xiao Pingan's soul power did not decrease, but instead increased. He even had an additional 0.5 slash. This feeling was too good. Not only did the additional 0.5 slash make up for the weakness Xiao Pingan felt after vomiting blood, it also increased by a large margin. This made Xiao Pingan feel that his current body was better than ever. His ears were sharp and his eyes were clear. His whole body was refreshed. After killing the horseshoe insect, the astral soul that the horseshoe insect had just absorbed shot down a ray of light from the sky on his Xiao Pingan's body. That ray of light flashed and then disappeared. Then, that astral soul vaguely formed some kind of mysterious connection with Xiao Pingan. This was the first astral soul that Xiao Pingan had guarded. Xiao Pingan did not do anything. Information about that astral soul appeared in his consciousness. That astral soul's identity was that of an ordinary postman in Shangjing. Half an hour later, Xiao Pingan finally saw the 3 horseshoe insect from before. With a thought, Xiao Pingan formed a hand seal. 3 stars fell from the sky at the same time. Before the 3 horseshoe insects could react, Xiao Pingan's horseshoe slaying sword had already slashed over. The first slash turned the horseshoe insect that had been chasing him the most ferociously into ashes. The remaining 2 horseshoe insects had just broken free from their absorbed state when Xiao Pingan's horseshoe slaying sword slashed over again, turning another horseshoe insect into ashes. The 3rd horseshoe insect already felt that something was wrong. It wanted to escape, but its speed was not as fast as the horseshoe slaying sword. After flying 100 meters, it was slashed into the air again. This horseshoe slaying sword was simply the horseshoe insect's nemesis. 3 golden balls of soul power flew towards Xiao Pingan and merged into Xiao Pingan's body in the blink of an eye. Xiao Pingan's soul power increased to 6.5 slashes. The number of stars he guarded increased to 4. Xiao Pingan once again searched the wilderness. After an unknown period of time, Xiao Pingan did not see any more horseshoe insects. Instead, he found another golden arch door that led into the spirit realm. This golden arch door was the same as his golden arch door. The only difference was that this golden arch door would occasionally flash with a scarlet red light. Nightmare. It was definitely a nightmare. When he saw the golden arch door, Xia Pingin's heart trembled. Then he became ecstatic. This was what it meant to wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search only to find it without any effort. He did not expect that the mysterious nightmare in the outside world would be so easily encountered in the spirit realm. Although the nightmare's golden arch door was right in front of Xia Pingan was unable to enter it. That golden arch door could only be entered by the person who created it. Xia Pingan looked at his surroundings and found a place to hide nearby, waiting for the nightmare to return. The second chapter has been updated. Everyone rest early. Chapter 3:24. Boom! The double stone door of the underground chamber shattered and dust flew everywhere. The metal door behind the stone door turned red and turned into liquid metal that flowed to the ground. The light from the outside shone through the shattered stone door and into the dark underground chamber. In the shadows of the light and darkness, countless dust danced under the sunlight. The iron-masked man's expressionless mask appeared above the passage of the secret chamber, and he slowly withdrew his hand. The little black pig followed beside the iron-masked man and stretched its head to look into the underground chamber. The little black pig's expression seemed to be even more anxious than the iron-masked man. Xia Pingan hadn't come out of the secret chamber for 3 whole days. The little black pig was really afraid that Xia Pingan's head would explode after fusing with the realm bead, and he would forever be a pig. That would be tragic if he couldn't recover. The iron-masked man originally didn't want to come down, but Xia Pingan was too abnormal this time. He directly went into the secret chamber and didn't come out for 3 days. The iron-masked man could sense Xia Pingan's situation in the secret chamber. He was sitting cross-legged on the stone bed in the secret chamber, and he was breathing. It seemed like he was fusing with the realm bead, but there was no light cocoon on his body, and he wasn't sleeping. After waiting for 3 days, Xia Pingan was still like this. This morning, the iron-masked man couldn't wait any longer and could only break in from the outside. He was prepared to personally enter the secret chamber to check on Xia Pingan's situation. The door of the secret chamber was broken open, and the iron-masked man waved his hand. The flying dust was blown out of the secret chamber by a gust of wind, and the entire underground chamber became quiet. The iron-masked man stepped over the debris on the ground and went down the stairs. The little black pig followed behind the iron-masked man, and the iron-masked man didn't stop it. But soon, the iron-masked man arrived in front of Xia Pingan and carefully checked on Xia Pingan's situation. Xia Pingan's body was soft, and he was breathing slowly. It didn't seem like he was poisoned, sleeping, or sick, but he didn't seem to have any consciousness and couldn't be woken up at all. Furthermore, after not eating or drinking for 3 days, Xia Pingan's complexion also showed a slight paleness. The iron-masked man had never encountered such a situation before. The little black pig blinked its eyes and stared at Xia Pingan. It screamed in its heart, "Bastard, don't die like this. If you want to die, turn me back into a human first. Then you can jump off a building, take poison, or stab yourself a few hundred times. Don't scare me." After checking on Xia Pingan's condition, the iron-masked man thought and took out a pill that emitted a faint fragrance. He gently put it into Xia Pingan's mouth. The pill turned into a liquid and naturally flowed into Xia Pingan's esophagus. Xia Pingan's esophagus. Xia Pingan was like a hunter. He had been lying in ambush at the entrance of the Golden Arch for 3 days, but he did not see the nightmare shadow. Seeing the spirit stars in the sky slowly disappear again, the entire spiritual realm gradually returned to darkness, just like the outside world entering night. Xia Pingan could not help but curse in his heart. Xia Pingan had a feeling that the nightmare was also looking for him. Perhaps he had also discovered the Golden Arch that he had entered the spiritual realm through. However, at this moment, he still had a slight advantage. He knew that the other party was the nightmare, But the other party did not know who he was. If he still had the wishful mask, Xiao Pingan would have liked to change his appearance. Unfortunately, in the spiritual realm, everyone appeared with their original appearance and could not be changed. Xiao Pingan also tried to use a long sword to cut his clothes and make a mask to wear. However, once his clothes were cut, they dissipated into smoke and a new piece of cloth would grow out of his original clothes. There was no way to change its use. The laws of the spiritual realm were completely different from the laws of the real world. Many things in this world seemed to dissipate once they were separated and lost their original functions. This was the only chance to lock onto the nightmare. Once this opportunity was lost, it would be even more difficult to find the nightmare. Xiao Pingan made up his mind. At worst, he would exhaust himself here with a nightmare and see how long the nightmare could endure. This was a test of endurance and willpower. The two of them were each other's prey and also the hunter. Finally, after another 2 days, on the 5th day of entering the spiritual realm, the nightmare could not endure it any longer. That night, under the starry sky, Xiao Pingan saw 2 horseshoe mites suddenly fly over from afar. They hovered in the air near the dream demon's golden arch door for a while before flying into the air, each entangling a star spirit body. Xiao Pingan did not move. He was still hiding in his hiding place, quietly waiting. The 2 horseshoe mites appeared at a slightly strange time. Xiao Pingan held his breath and did not make a move. In the spiritual realm, horseshoe mites could be encountered at any time, but the nightmare could not be encountered at any time. More than 10 minutes after the 2 horseshoe mites arrived, Xiao Pingan discovered that a large gray fog was rapidly approaching the golden arch. Within the gray fog, a white figure could be vaguely seen. The white figure was very careful. It wrapped itself in the gray fog and approached the golden arch bit by bit. When the fog was less than 100 meters away from the golden arch door, a white figure suddenly rushed out of the fog. Just as it was about to rush into the golden arch door, Xiao Pingan immediately jumped out of his hiding place and stood in front of the golden arch door. He formed a hand seal and shouted, "Scatter!" The gray fog surrounding the white figure dispersed. The gray fog within a 1-mile radius of the golden arch door rolled and disappeared in an instant. Xiao Pingan and the white figure immediately saw each other. "It's you." Both of them were shocked. "Master Xiao Pingan." Both of them called out each other's names almost at the same time. Compared to Xiao Pingan's shock when he found out that the nightmare was Master Shuiyue, the nightmare was even more shocked when he saw Xiao Pingan's face. The 2 figures were separated by dozens of meters, and both of them locked their gazes on each other. I didn't expect that the famous dream seer of Shangjing City was actually the nightmare. Xiao Pingan sighed. Master Shuiyue's eyes flashed strangely. She took in all the shock in her eyes, and her expression returned to normal. Then, she said in a hoarse voice, "I also didn't expect that the East Harbor Inspector of the Judgment Army could also merge 22 Dream Seer Realm pearls and enter the spiritual realm. The Shang dynasty shouldn't know that you have such abilities." Haha, that's why it's such a coincidence. I didn't expect the nightmare who had attacked me so many times to be a dream soothsayer. The contrast between their identities is too great. It's indeed the best cover for you. As Xiao Pingan spoke, he had already unsheathed the rusty longsword in his hand with a swish. The nightmare's eyes narrowed, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he said coldly, "We are both beginner spirit masters. You know what I know, and I know what you know. The Zhanwu sword is only useful against horned beetles and is useless against spirit masters. Neither of us can do anything to the other. Why don't we make a deal? We will each return to our secret mandala and fight to the death based on our abilities." Xiao Pingan laughed maniacally. "Everyone says that the nightmare of the Blood Demon Church is full of tricks. It's true. Our Zhanwu sword can only kill horned beetles and can't do anything to the other party. But do you think that I need the Zhanwu sword to kill you? If this long sword slashes your neck here, do you think you can still live?" As Xiao Pingan spoke, he lightly flicked the long sword in his hand. That long sword let out a draconic roar. The nightmare's expression was cold as he pulled out his shiny long sword. He pointed it at Xia Pingan and laughed coldly. Do you think I'm afraid of you? If we really fight, the one who will die here will probably be you. I just think that as two powerful summoners, we have to use such a crude method to fight to the death in the spiritual realm. It's a bit ridiculous. Hee, aren't you afraid? Xia Pingan had a smile on his face. With firm steps, he approached the nightmare step by step. If I'm not wrong, the level of your soul power in your body shouldn't have increased at all after entering the spiritual realm, right? The blood demon church allowed you to enter the spiritual realm. Perhaps you were lucky enough to obtain the identity token of a spirit herder, enter the spirit herder castle, and learn the basic skills of a spirit herder. However, you can't kill horned beetles, so you can't fulfill the true mission of a spirit herder. Your strength has been stagnant. Therefore, even though you've been famous for a long time, you're still a basic spirit herder. You can't advance on the path of a spirit herder. God is fair. The blood demon church can't take all the advantages in the spiritual realm. You can't control horned beetles and kill them to increase your strength. Don't you think I'm right? This month, you've used the dream puppet technique to do many things in Shangjing City. You must have used up a lot of soul power. You shouldn't have recovered yet. Furthermore, you've stayed here for 5 days. If it weren't for the fact that you can't hold on any longer, you wouldn't be in a hurry to return to the secret mandala. The nightmare sneered. I can't kill you, but the horned beetles can. Looking at the approaching Xia Pingan, the nightmare abruptly retreated. Suddenly, he let out a strange howl. He formed a hand seal and pointed at Xia Pingan. The two astral soul bodies in the sky suddenly fell. The two horned beetles attached to the astral soul bodies also pounced on Xia Pingan. They shot arrows of black gas from their mouths towards Xia Pingan. 2 rays of light from the demon slaying sword suddenly lit up and slashed towards the 2 horned beetles. In the blink of an eye, the 2 horned beetles' bodies were crushed by the demon slaying sword. The nightmare took advantage of the moment Xia Pingan released the demon slaying sword to roar. Using the horned beetles' bodies as cover, he moved like a wisp of smoke towards the golden arch door. Before the demon-slaying sword could return to Xia Pingan's hand, a slightly rusty longsword appeared in Xia Pingan's hand. His body quickly turned and pounced towards the nightmare. The 2 people's bodies crisscrossed in the air like lightning. The cold light and the sharp edge of the sword collided in the air. A few rays of light that were hard to catch with the naked eye flashed in the air. The nightmare screamed. One of his hands that was holding the long sword was severed at the shoulder. Black blood spurted out and fell to the ground. His entire body turned into a ray of red bloodlight and pounced into the golden arch door. Xia Pingan threw out his longsword. The longsword in his hand turned into a ray of sword light and chased after the nightmare's body, disappearing into the golden arched door. Chapter 2 updated at night. Chapter 325. Xia Pingan's body somersaulted in the air, as powerful and nimble as a ferocious tiger. Finally, he landed firmly on the ground. He frowned slightly as he looked at the blood-colored golden arch door. Only at this time did the light on the night-cutter sword disappear, and it returned to Xia Pingan's hand. Dream Demon's golden arch door was slowly fading in front of his eyes. It went from solid to illusory, and then from illusory, it slowly disappeared. The location of the golden arched door was gradually covered by a gray fog, as if it had never appeared. Xia Pingan looked to the ground. Dream Demon's hand that he had cut off was slowly dissipating into black gas, but Dream Demon's longsword was left behind. Xia Pingan walked over and picked up the longsword on the ground. The longsword was as bright as snow, like silver without a trace of rust. It carried a sharp aura. Compared to the longsword in Xia Pingan's hand and the longsword he had thrown out, it was clearly of a much higher grade. Near the handle of the longsword, there were 2 Xiaozhuan characters, Flying Radiance. Flying Radiance, good sword. Xia Pingan praised in his heart. He did not know where Dream Demon had obtained this longsword. Just now, in order to escape through the golden arched door, Dream Demon had even left the scabbard behind. The two balls of golden soul power from the two slain Night Lords only now flew to Xia Pingan's chest and were absorbed by Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan's soul power suddenly increased to 7. 5 slashes, and the upper limit of his soul power, if fully recovered, would be 13. 5 slashes. Compared to a few days ago, when Xia Pingan had just entered the spiritual realm, his soul power had unknowingly doubled. After killing the two Night Lords, Xia Pingan's astral soul body had quietly increased to 6. There were 6 stars in the sky that had a subtle connection with Xia Pingan. I wonder if Dream Demon has been killed? Xia Pingan didn't know either. The last sword he threw out was aimed at the back of the Dream Demon's head. If the sword caught up to the Dream Demon, it would be able to pierce through the Dream Demon's head and kill him. But at the last moment, Nightmare escaped from the spirit world and escaped to his secret mandala, so Xia Pingan was not sure. But no matter what, now that he knew Nightmare's identity and that he was in Shanjing City, it was the best time to kill him. Xia Pingan turned around, and without a second's delay, he immediately ran towards his golden arches. He wanted to return to his body and immediately go to the real world to kill the Nightmare. He could not let the Nightmare escape. Xia Pingan had a vague feeling that the Nightmare demon knew that his entry into the spirit realm might bring him unpredictable consequences. The moment Dream Demon saw him, his shock was somewhat abnormal. Logically speaking, since Dream Demon already knew that someone else would enter the spirit realm, and had played hide-and-seek with him in the spirit realm for a few days, and he was a target that had been assassinated by him at least twice with the dream puppet technique, his expression shouldn't have changed so much when he saw him. Why was Dream Demon so shocked? Behind that shock, it didn't seem to be as simple as seeing a spacewalker. This question lingered in Xia Pingan's mind, and it also cast a shadow in Xia Pingan's heart. Xia Pingan quickened his pace, and like an arrow, he passed through the gray fog. At the same time, on a small island over 70 kilometers east of Shanjing City, in the basement of the watchman's room in the only lighthouse on the island. With a soft groan of pain, Dream Demon finally woke up in the basement of the lighthouse. In the gloomy room, Dream Demon violently gasped for breath, and the sweat on his forehead and neck had soaked his shirt in the blink of an eye, as if he had been fished out of the water. A wooden puppet doll was in the room, guarding his bed and moving around mechanically. The puppet doll's hollow eyes, sharp and funny nose, and cold and strange smile on its face, in this pitch-black room, could make timid people panic. The room was dark, but in the eyes of a summoner, this kind of darkness was like daytime at dusk. In this room, one could faintly hear the sound of the waves kissing the reef outside. Dream Demon, who was guarding the lighthouse, had a cautious and honest face, which was poles apart from Mr. Shu's. One of Dream Demon's hands was already unable to move. He gasped for breath and used his left hand that could still move to take out 2 pills from his spatial equipment and directly swallowed them. After swallowing the pills, his body's trembling slowed down a little, but the sharp pain from his arm and ear was bone-piercing, which made Dream Demon's face turn sinister. The last sword that Xia Pingan threw at him almost took his life. If he hadn't lowered his head at the most crucial moment, he would have died. But even so, that sword still cut off the left ear of his spiritual body the moment it entered the spirit world god palace. Bada, in the indescribable pain, a trace of blood appeared on Dream Demon's left ear, and it directly fell from his head, landing on the ground like a piece of rotten meat. Without the soul, how could the body be attached? Voila! Dream Demon gritted his teeth and tore off the sleeve of his right hand. Just below his right shoulder, his right hand that was still intact had already withered like a vine in the blink of an eye, slowly losing its vitality. It was withering and turning black, like a broken vine under the scorching sun, losing its vitality bit by bit, as if it would fall from his arm at any time. This kind of pain was indescribable. A short sword appeared in Dream Demon's left hand. Looking at his gradually withered right hand, Dream Demon gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and cut off his right hand from the shoulder. Dream Demon ate a pill, summoned a pharmacist, and bandaged his wound. He then put away the puppet and then stumbled out of the basement under the lighthouse, walked out of the house, and ran towards the beach. This was a barren island. Only when there was a storm would a few families of fishermen come to this island to avoid the storm. On the entire island, other than bird droppings, rocks, and a few short thorns, there were also a few mangrove trees on the beach. The night sky was dark outside, and the stars were shining brightly. It was somewhat similar to the spiritual world at this moment. The sound of the wind and waves raged on the island. Xia Pingan, Dream Demon, walked quickly, passing through the messy reefs, and growled softly. He let out a devilish laugh from the depths of his throat. So, that person is, although his identity was exposed and he was severely injured, Dream Demon did not appear dispirited at this moment. This was because he knew that he had already made a great contribution to the Blood Demon Church. This contribution was so great that even if the 5 demons were to be wiped out, it would be worth it as long as he brought this news back. It was precisely because they wanted to confirm who it was that the Blood Demon Church issued a kill order to all the Void Walkers who came to this world with Xia Pingan. They would not let a single one of them go. The kill order was issued by the Lord of the Blood Demon Church. And from what the Lord of the Blood Demon Church said, the one who issued the kill order was the highest level of the Blood Demon Church. That was a powerful existence that Dream Demon could not reach and was close to a god. Dream Demon did not know why the highest level of the Blood Demon Church wanted to find the most special person in this batch of Void Walkers. But he knew that the most special person had to be Xia Pingan, because Xia Pingan could enter the spiritual world. As long as he brought this news back, it would be enough. Dream Demon stumbled to the beach and then plunged into the pitch-black, turbulent sea. 2 waves surged, and then he disappeared without a trace. At the same time, in the Tianyuan Bridge night market of Shangjing City, inside Carefree Restaurant, a plump, fair, and bejeweled woman queued for half a day and had just climbed up the stairs. She sat opposite Master Shueiyue, who had the air of a transcendent being, and asked Master Shueiyue to use the dream-playing technique to interpret her dream. Under Master Shueiyue's dream-playing technique, the woman's dream gradually appeared. Master, this dream is really strange. I've been dreaming of losing my shoes for the past 2 days. What do you think this dream means? The woman asked twice and realized that Master Shueiyue had suddenly gone silent. She raised her head to look at Master Shueiyue and saw that Master Shueiyue's body had suddenly stiffened. Her hands were still in the dream-playing technique gesture, but Master Shueiyue's eyes, nose, and ears were like melting wax, slowly falling from Master Shueiyue's face and falling to the ground, turning into pus and blood at this moment. Master Shueiyue's face was exceptionally terrifying. At this moment, the woman's scream pierced the silence in Carefree Restaurant. It could be heard almost 100 meters away from the street. Amidst the woman's scream, Master Shueiyue's entire body turned into pus and blood that flowed all over the ground. Chapter 326. In the middle of the night, a bolt of lightning shot out from the clouds and landed on the small square outside Carefree Restaurant without any warning, giving the surrounding people a fright. The moment the lightning disappeared, the iron-masked man appeared there, holding Xia Pingan's hand. The police had already set up a blockade outside Carefree Restaurant. The iron-masked man had brought Xia Pingan here using the lightning escape technique. It was too exhilarating. To Xia Pingan, it was like riding a super roller coaster. Amidst the roaring of the lightning, his whole body went up and down. After a few seconds of dizziness, he had already rushed over. The iron-masked man's ability was indeed amazing. Who is it? Seeing the sudden appearance of the lightning and the 2 people behind it, a few policemen immediately surrounded them. Xia Pingan took out the inspector token that he carried with him and flashed it at the policeman. The policeman's attitude changed, and they immediately retreated. Xia Pingan didn't say much. He directly passed through the blockade with the iron-masked man and went up to Carefree Restaurant. A patrol team from the Judgment Army had already surrounded the place. Xia Pingan revealed his identity. The team leader of the Judgment Army looked at Xia Pinggan's token and asked, "Isn't this Dongying district?" "Sir, were you investigating Master Shuiyue's case?" "No, this person owes me a lot of money. I heard that something happened, so I came over to take a look and confirm if he ran away." "Brother, please make things easy for me," Xia Pinggan said. "Oh." Hearing Xia Pinggan's words, the Judgment Army team didn't stop them. They just made things easy for Xia Pinggan and the Iron Masked Man to go upstairs. The smell in Carefree Restaurant was a little pungent, with an indescribable stench. There was a pool of pus outside Carefree Restaurant and a pool of pus inside Carefree Restaurant. The two of them came directly to the pool of pus and blood in Carefree Inn. Xia Pinggan frowned slightly as he looked at the pool of pus and blood. Child of Fortune had arrived here earlier than the two of them, so Xia Pinggan already knew everything that had happened here. Just a moment ago, Master Shuiyue and the manservant beside her in Carefree Restaurant had suddenly turned into pus and blood under the watchful eyes of everyone, scaring the people who had come here to check on their dreams. They hurriedly called the police, and the small team of Judgment Army who had received the news also hurried over. After the investigation, the Judgment Army team found that there were no traces of a summoner here. The two pools of pus and blood were suspected to be poisoned. The iron-masked man squatted in front of a puddle of pus and blood, carefully examining it. He stood up and said to Xia Pinggan, "This is a strong poison called ecstasy. The poisoned person's divine soul, bones, and blood will dissolve little by little, leaving nothing behind." Xia Pinggan nodded. He looked around Carefree Restaurant, but didn't find any other clues. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The nightmare still escaped. This Master Shuiyue and her manservant who had turned into pus and blood was definitely one of the puppets controlled by the nightmare. The nightmare allowed this Master Shuiyue to use his identity and appearance to swindle people in Shangjing City. The nightmare was remotely controlling him, and in Shangjing City, the nightmare should have other identities and hiding places that wouldn't be easily exposed. The nightmare's cunning was beyond imagination. Once he discovered that his whereabouts had been exposed, the nightmare immediately cut off his tail to survive, making this Master Shuiyue directly self-destruct. Even Child of Fortune couldn't find any trace of the nightmare. This also indirectly proved that the sword he had thrown didn't kill the nightmare. The nightmare's tracks that they had just caught were cut off just like that. But this time, it wasn't all for nothing. At least the nightmare wouldn't be able to hide so easily. The nightmare had lost his right hand in the spiritual realm, so in the future, no matter what the nightmare did, his right hand should be crippled. No elixir could save it. This way, it would be easier to find the nightmare. Xia Pinggan and the Iron Masked Man then left Carefree Restaurant and strolled on the street outside. "That Master Shuiyue really owes you a lot of money?" the Iron Masked Man asked. In fact, until now, the Iron Masked Man still didn't know why Xia Pinggan had hurried here after waking up from the secret room. "It's fake," Xia Pinggan said without hesitation. "The real Master Shuiyue is the nightmare. The dead one is a puppet." The Iron Masked Man slightly sucked in a breath of cold air. "The nightmare? Yes. You were in the underground secret room for the past few days. I was worried that you wouldn't wake up." "How did you know?" the Iron Masked Man asked incredulously. "So, why do you think I didn't wake up for the past few days? I fought with the nightmare in my dream and chopped off one of his hands. In the future, if you see someone without a right hand, pay more attention. That person might be the nightmare. Keep this information to yourself. I'll keep it a secret for now." Xia Pinggan shrugged and smiled. He rubbed his stomach. "Let's go. Let's find a place, and I'll treat you to something. I haven't eaten for a few days. I'm starving." The Iron Masked Man gave Xia Pinggan a deep look. He felt that Xia Pinggan was too unfathomable. The two found a restaurant nearby. Xia Pinggan ordered a table of dishes and wolfed them down. Xia Pinggan looked normal. However, the Iron Masked Man still noticed that Xia Pinggan's expression was slightly different from usual. When he was eating, Xia Pinggan was unusually calm. He wasn't as casual as usual. His gaze would occasionally become deep, as if he was thinking about something. The matter of a nightmare was indeed not over. Furthermore, there was still a tale. Xiao Pingan had to carefully consider the consequences of the blood demon church, knowing that he could enter the spiritual realm. This time, although he had temporarily removed the threat of the nightmare, from a certain extent, he had also completely exposed himself to the blood demon church. Xiao Pingan had to face it carefully. The death of Master Shui Yue on this night, other than causing some waves in the circle of dream masters in Shangjing City, there wasn't much movement. After the investigation by the Judgment Army, they came to the conclusion that she committed suicide by taking poison. Not many people cared about it. The resources of the Judgment Army were limited. The death of a deceiving dream master was not considered a big deal in Shangjing City. After finishing his meal with the iron-masked man, Xiao Pingan once again returned to the small courtyard he rented. He calculated the time and realized that the assassin that the Huang family had hired to kill him would probably arrive in Shangjing City within these 2 days. 2 days later, at the pier of Shangjing City's East Harbor District, woo-woo-woo, amidst the loud and clear sound of the steam whistle, a 10,000-ton Azure Sky passenger ship slowly docked at a berth at the pier. After the passenger ship docked, the passengers on the passenger ship were like a flood that had been released from a dam. They carried large and small bags of luggage and surged down from the passenger ship. Such a scene could be seen at the pier every day. The bustling Shangjing City attracted countless people to this city every day. A man in his 30s, thin and frail, wearing a pair of round-rimmed glasses, looked refined and struggled to carry an old leather suitcase. He was wearing a short gray jacket, and he was also squeezing into the crowd, carrying his suitcase and rushing out. Anyone who saw that man would not pay too much attention to him. At first glance, that man gave people the impression that he was an ordinary person who came to Shangjing City to escape life. He could be an ordinary accountant or a small clerk. There are many such people in Shangjing City. They came to Shangjing City with all kinds of beautiful dreams, wanted to make a fortune and stand out. However, not long after, this city would let them understand the hardships of life. The underground rooms that were shared by a group of people, the dark and small buildings that were leaking noisily, as well as the burdensome low-income life, staying up late, working overtime, and the long hours of suffering on the way to and from work every day. Within a few years, the last trace of enthusiasm in them would be squeezed out, and they would leave this city dejectedly. Then, new people would continue to come. That man carried a suitcase and finally walked out of the harbor. Looking at the city in front of him, a cold light flashed across the man's eyes, and a strange smile unconsciously appeared at the corner of his mouth. It had been a long time since he accepted a job from Shangjing City. This time, the reward was high, and the target was only a small envoy inspector. This task was not difficult. However, the client was really rich since he wanted to take on a small envoy inspector of the Judgment Army himself. Looking at the surging crowd around him, the cold light in the man's eyes and the smile at the corner of his mouth disappeared in the blink of an eye. He blended into the crowd and walked out of the gate of the harbor. The moment the man walked out of the harbor, two people naturally walked over from the side of the gate and naturally held his arms. The man was stunned and looked at the person holding his left arm. That person was wearing an iron mask. He could not see his face clearly, but his aura was cold and powerful. The man holding his right arm was in his 40s. His face was thin, his cheekbones were prominent, the skin on his face was rough and dark, and his hooked nose looked particularly sinister and ruthless. The aura on his body was also terrifying, and he was staring at him with a gloating and cruel expression. Who are you? I don't know you. I have no money. I want to take the bus, not the carriage." The man whose arm was being held pretended to be panicked and said. The iron-masked man who was holding his left arm only moved his fingers, and a faint blue electric arc drilled into his body from his hand, causing his whole body to be completely paralyzed. As for the guy who was looking at him with a cruel and gloating expression, he directly sealed his secret mandala with a spirit-controlling needle. He did not even have a chance to resist. "Ha ha ha, you're quite good at pretending. It doesn't matter. You'll soon know who we are." Yanxi laughed strangely. A black carriage came from the side and stopped at the side of the road. The door of the carriage opened, and Xia Pingan was sitting in the carriage with a smile on his face and a glass of red wine in his hand. He then looked at the man whose arm was being held by the Iron Masked Man and Yin Shi with a sympathetic expression. When a man saw Xia Pingan, his face finally changed. He had seen this face on the portrait of the task, but it was impossible for him to run away. First update today. Chapter 327. The crowd on the street flowed without any disturbance. In the blink of an eye, the man was escorted to the carriage by the Iron Masked Man and Flame Rhinoceros. He was thrown at Xia Pingan's feet like a dead dog without any dignity. Once the door was closed, the black carriage began to move again. The man lying on the ground looked at the other 3 people in the carriage in horror. Until now, he still didn't understand how he felt the moment he arrived in Shangjing City. It was as if he had walked right into a trap. Then he heard the hook-nosed guy say to his target in a flattering manner, "Why don't I turn him into a pig too? I'll train him, and I guarantee that he'll obediently tell me everything about his ancestors in a few days." The man lying on the ground felt a chill run down his spine. "Right, why also?" Xiao Pingan smiled and looked down at the man lying at his feet. "Do you know who I am?" "I know," the man said in a low voice. "I also know who you are, and I know who sent you here. I also know how much gold coins the Huang family gave you. You are also a 6-sun realm summoner, and you have never failed before. I feel that the little bit of gold coins the Huang family gave you is not enough to buy your life. What do you think? Where did you get all this information from?" The man didn't pretend anymore. His face turned cold, and he revealed the true colors of an assassin. Even if he lost so miserably this time, he still wanted to know how he lost. "Other than the Huang family, who else do you think would know this information?" Xiao Pingan said half-truthfully. F***CK. The man cursed. It was really the Huang family that made a mistake. No wonder he was caught as soon as he got off the boat. "Now you have 2 choices. One is to cooperate with me obediently and tell me everything you know. You can testify against the Huang family as a witness. This choice won't let you escape punishment, but it will let you live. The second choice is to not cooperate and maintain your professional integrity. The result is death. The carriage will soon arrive at the East Port Supervision Office. Before the carriage stops, tell me your choice. Either the Huang family dies or you die. Choose one." Xiao Pingan didn't get angry from beginning to end. Instead, he spoke calmly to the man at his feet. It was because of this that the assassin was exceptionally terrified. His back was soaked in cold sweat because he knew that Xiao Pingan wasn't joking with him. "You promise that you won't lie to me and that I can survive if I cooperate with you?" Because of the tension, the assassin's voice became hoarse. "Because I want your confession, and I want to hand you over to the adjudicator army to testify against the Huang family. You are useful to me if you live. Prisoners like you are very scarce in Shangjing City. Many places need you. After you testify against the Huang family, the adjudicator army won't kill you. You will probably only have to suffer for a few decades. Of course, how long you have to suffer depends on your own ability, but at least you have a chance to live. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish now. Later, I will drag a corpse out of the carriage. I will think of another way to deal with the Huang family." The assassin didn't think for long before he said, "I choose to cooperate." Xiao Pingan laughed smart. Seeing that Xiao Pingan didn't turn the assassin into a pig, Flaming Rhinoceros was slightly disappointed. However, he still used the secret method of transmitting his voice to Xiao Pingan and volunteered, "If you want the lives of those people from the Huang family, I can kill them all. Since I have the adjudicator army as my backer and I have evidence that can overthrow the Huang family, why should I take the risk to do this kind of thing? Do you think that Shangjing City can really let a 6-sun realm summoner do whatever he wants? Any action is risky. If something happens to the Huang family now, the first suspect will be me. Why should I seek trouble for myself? Therefore, unless I have no other choice, this is the worst choice for me. I just need to deal with it impartially." Xiao Pingan glanced at Flaming Rhinoceros and shook his head. If he didn't know how to make use of the country's machinery and took the risk himself, Wouldn't that be stupid? If the Huang family had any other choice, they would never have taken the path of an assassin. Well, can you give me a few more hours today? Flaming Rhinoceros asked with a flattering face. Xiao Pingon curled his lips and stretched out his hand to point at Flaming Rhinoceros's body. A light flew into Flaming Rhinoceros's body, seeing that your performance today is good. Then until sunset, Flaming Rhinoceros let out a long sigh, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Xiao Pingon meant that he still had to turn back into a pig after sunset. However, Flaming Rhinoceros was already very satisfied to be a human for half a day. At least it was a good start. Even if he was now a human and his strength had been restored, Flaming Rhinoceros didn't dare to run away because the shape-sealing technique was still in his body. Xiao Pingon could turn him into a pig at any time. In his current state, it was unconditional for him to become a pig, but there were conditions for him to become a human. He needed Xiao Pingon to give him the unlocking time. Once this unlocking time was up, he would become a pig again. If you don't become a pig, you don't know the value of a human body. It didn't take long for the carriage to stop in front of the Donggang supervision office. Xiao Pingon got off the carriage, and Flaming Rhinoceros lifted the assassin with one hand. They entered the supervision office, and the assassin was immediately placed in the interrogation room. The situation is like this. The Huang family hired me to come to Shangjing City for 2 targets. One is Xiao Pingon, and the other is the remaining members of the Fire Dragon Gang. The Huang family wants to eliminate them all. In the interrogation room, the assassin sat on a special chair, and Long Chao and Hua Ziqin were in charge of the interrogation. The assassin was very cooperative. When the two asked questions, he answered in full detail. Why did the Huang family hire you to eliminate the Fire Dragon Gang? Long Chao asked in a deep voice. This question has nothing to do with me. I'm just an assassin. I'm paid to eliminate disasters. I only need to confirm the identity and price of the target. I don't care about the rest. Then what's the specific arrangement? According to the plan, the Huang family will first pretend to arrange for the people of the Fire Dragon Gang to cooperate with me to assassinate Xiao Pingon. After they succeed, I will eliminate the people of the Fire Dragon Gang and then push the responsibility of the assassination to the few people of the Fire Dragon Gang. All the problems will be solved. There are also a few people in the room next to the interrogation room of the assassin. Xiao Pingon stood in front of a huge single-view glass and looked at the interrogation situation in the interrogation room. The sound in the interrogation room was transmitted to this room through the copper pipe, and everything was clear. In this room, there were 3 summoners in shackles. One of them was missing a leg and was wearing a prosthetic leg. These 3 summoners were the remaining 3 summoners of the Fire Dragon Gang who attacked Xiao Pingon on the Long Street that day. They were the backbone of the Fire Dragon Gang. In the battle that day, the leader of the Fire Dragon Gang was killed by Xiao Pingon. The 3 of them barely escaped at the critical moment and have been hiding in Shangjing City these days. Xiao Pingon brought the Iron Masked Man yesterday and easily caught these 3 who had escaped the net. These 3 people were now wanted by the Judgment Army because they had arranged a formation and summoned battle dolls to attack the inspector in Shangjing City. They were already wanted criminals. These 3 people had always been very tough. Since Xiao Pingon brought them into this room, they had been glaring at Xiao Pingon with cold smiles on their faces. However, after the interrogation in the interrogation room next door, the cold smiles on the faces of the 3 core members of the Fire Dragon Gang disappeared, and their expressions changed drastically. At first, the 3 of them thought that Xiao Pingon was putting on an act for them. However, when the assassin revealed the details of the Huang family's plan, their psychological defenses finally collapsed. This was because only they and the Huang family knew about the plan. The Huang family had discussed it with them. The Huang family would find an expert to deal with Xiao Pingon with them, and they would cooperate. Even if Xiao Pingon wanted to put on an act, it was impossible for him to know these details. They finally knew that in the Huang family's plan, they had to die too, and they had to take the blame for the assassination of Xiao Pingon. Huang family, F*CK your ancestors. The bearded summoner with the prosthetic leg roared angrily. He wanted to struggle to stand up, but he was fixed to the chair. He could only pant with red eyes. The other summoner's face was pale, and the last one was smiling bitterly. They were working for the Huang family, but the Huang family wanted their lives. This was really ironic. They were betrayed, but they were still counting money for them. Xiao Pingan turned his head, looked at the three people, and said calmly, "I don't have any enmity with you. That day, during the bloody battle on the street, I was enforcing the law, and you were working for the Huang family. Ask yourselves, if I kill you, do you feel wronged? Regardless of whether you give me an explanation or not, I will hand you and the assassin over to the Judgment Army today. Ask whatever you want. That day, we ambushed you on the street under the Huang family's instructions. In addition to that day's incident, the Huang family has done a lot of dirty and shameful things in Shangjing City over the years. We all know about it. This time, we can expose them all." The bearded summoner with the prosthetic leg panted heavily, looking as if he was ready to risk everything. Xiao Pingan gestured to Fan Gang and Sidu Hua, who had been silent at the side, to start the interrogation. Not only did they have to dig out the Fire Dragon Gang's interception, but they also had to dig out all the dirty things that the Huang family had done in the past. The interrogation in the two interrogation rooms was going on at the same time. Xiao Pingan was listening in the interrogation room where the Fire Dragon Gang was being interrogated. With the confession of the three people from the Fire Dragon Gang, the Huang family's old affairs were dug out one by one, which was really shocking. It wasn't the first time that Huang Wei had committed a crime. It was just that the Huang family had dealt with all the cases of Huang Wei abusing women in the past. If they couldn't deal with it, the Fire Dragon Gang would take care of it. Huang Wei had done this kind of thing too many times. Slowly, the ordinary women that he bought with money could no longer satisfy his appetite. Later on, in order to pursue excitement, he began to turn his attention to ordinary women in the city. He began to commit crimes in the East Harbor District, and he became more and more perverted. It wasn't until the summoner who followed Huang Wei was caught by the East Harbor District Inspection Department that Huang Wei became obedient for a few days. The Huang family's other cases of corruption were too many to count. The Fire Dragon Gang had done a lot of things for the Huang family. The most shocking thing was that the Fire Dragon Gang had robbed and killed the patrol inspector of the 6 provinces who came to Shangjing City to complain. Because the patrol inspector had some evidence of Huang Zheng's illegal activities in Anqi province, he couldn't stand Huang Zheng's actions in Anqi province. Therefore, he was robbed and killed by the Fire Dragon Gang on his way back to Shangjing City. Even Fan Gang and Sidu Hua, who were in charge of the interrogation records, had a slight change in expression when they heard this. The Huang family actually dared to rob and kill the Shang dynasty's patrol inspector of the 6 provinces. Just this crime alone, once it was verified, the Huang family would be consigned to eternal damnation. Xiao Pingan finally understood why the Huang family wanted to silence the Fire Dragon Gang. These few people from the Fire Dragon Gang knew too much. Perhaps the Huang family had long wanted to silence the Fire Dragon Gang, but after Rinpochian dealt a heavy blow to the Fire Dragon Gang, he created such an opportunity for the Huang family. After the interrogation, the 3 people from the Fire Dragon Gang had read their statements and signed their signatures. Xiao Pingan personally kept the statements and ordered the 3 people from the Fire Dragon Gang to be escorted back to their cells. At the same time, he ordered someone to prepare a carriage. He was going to personally escort them to the Ping Mountain Barracks. All right, I also remembered something. When he was about to walk out of the interrogation room, one of the people from the Fire Dragon Gang suddenly stopped and turned his head. The men from the Huang family all liked to go to Red Leaf Villa. Every time they went there, their whereabouts were rather low-key and mysterious. I once escorted Huang Zhen to the Fire Dragon Villa. Huang Zhen carried a box in his carriage. That box wasn't big. On the way, there was a noise coming from the box. It seemed like a child was crying for help. Chapter 328. Red Leaf Villa? When these 4 words entered Xiao Pingan's ears, Xiao Pingan's heart suddenly jolted. Red Leaf Villa again. It seemed that the man called Ghost Slave had mentioned Red Leaf Villa as well. Why did the Huang family go to Red Leaf Villa? Okay, I got it. Take them away. Xiaoping's eyebrows moved. He gently waved his hand, ordering people to take the 3 people of the Fire Dragon gang away. Xiaopingan walked out of the interrogation room. After thinking for a while, he turned to another direction and directly came to the dungeon. Once again, he stood in front of the door of the man called Ghost Slave Cell. Xiaopingan waved his hand, and the guard who led him to the cell hurriedly left. He didn't dare to stay and listen. With his hair as messy as weeds, that ghost slave was sitting beside the wall under the ventilation, whole like a silent stone covered with moss. When he saw Xiaopingan standing at the door of the cell, he opened his eyes at once and looked at Xiaopingan. There seemed to be a fierce thunder flashing in his eyes. How is it? Do you know that Red Leaf Villa is not an ordinary place? That man asked in a low voice. Xiaopingan was a bit surprised. He stared at that man. You can actually hear the interrogation in the interrogation room. Hee, a level 8 fighter is not as weak as you think. You can't lock down some of the fighter's abilities. The man stood up, and the shackles all over his body rattled chaotically. He walked step by step to the front of the prison cell's iron bars and used his coarse hands to grab onto the 2 iron bars. He stuck his terrifying face, which was crisscrossed with ravines, close to the bars. He lowered his voice, clenched his teeth, and roared in a low and deep voice. Did you want to ask me what's in Red Leaf's Villa? I've told you that it's a devil's den in Shangjing City. If you let me out, I won't run away. I'm willing to die there. I'll tear it apart and show you what's inside. Xiaopingan rubbed his forehead. Can't you be more straightforward? What a devil's den is like. Until Xiaopingan left the dungeon, the 2 words devil's den were still reverberating in Xiaopingan's mind, making his head hurt. 2 hours later, in the Judgment Army's Ping Mountain camp, Lin, he was furious. He waved his hand and slammed his palm on the table in front of him. The expensive gold-threaded desk made of Phoebe Jinan would immediately shattered into pieces. What a big bastard. A small fire dragon gang actually dared to rob and kill the inspector of 6 provinces. Back then, the inspector of 6 provinces disappeared on his way back to Shangjing City. His Majesty even ordered the Judgment Army to investigate, but there was no trace. All these years, the family of the inspector of 6 provinces came to our Judgment Army every year to ask for information. I didn't expect that it was the Fire Dragon gang who did it. Is it reliable? They've already sent them here. Your Excellency, you'll know once you interrogate them. I didn't expect to get so much information from the Fire Dragon gang. This Huang family is really daring. No wonder they dared to hire assassins to kill me this time. It's not the first time they've done something like this. Xiaopingan said with grievance. Your Excellency and the Judgment Army, please uphold justice for me. Don't worry. As long as we can prove that this is the Huang family's doing, His Majesty will chop off their heads even if there are 10 governors of Anxi province, let alone the Huang family's governor. Lin Yi said with a murderous look. I'm relieved to hear your words, Your Excellency. Xiaopingan shook his head and sighed. According to the Fire Dragon Gang's confession, the patrol inspector died miserably at that time. Yi Zhaofeng poured molten iron into his mouth and tied him up with iron chains. Finally, he sank into the 1,000-star pool in Mount Emofoam. After a few years, his corpse should still be at the bottom of the pool. As long as we send people to retrieve it, we should be able to retrieve the corpse. According to the Fire Dragon Gang's confession, Yi Zhaofeng did that because of Huang Zheng's order. I'll personally supervise this case and give His Majesty an explanation. The Huang family is finished. Xiaopingan let out a long sigh. With Your Excellency's help, this matter will definitely come to light, and we'll give the victim an explanation. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Wait a minute. Lin Yi's eyebrows moved slightly as he stopped Xiaopingan. How did you know that the assassin came to Shangjing City? How did you catch him as soon as he got off the boat? Your Excellency, this information was given to me by that person. That person? Yes. Xiaopingan nodded and said without blushing or panting, I guess that person saw that I was still useful and didn't want me to be harmed by the Huang family. So he sent me the information in time. That's why I was able to calmly arrange and capture the assassin and the people from the Fire Dragon gang. Lin, he had nothing to say when Xia Pingan mentioned that person. He just frowned slightly and asked, "Did that person send any information about the dream demon?" Xia Pingan lowered his eyes slightly and said calmly, "Not yet. The dream demon is unpredictable and the most dangerous of the 5 demons. If that person sends any information about the dream demon, you can inform me directly." Lin, he said directly. "Okay." Xia Pingan nodded. "If that person has any information about the dream demon, I'm afraid he'll ask for a very high price this time. His Majesty is very angry that the dream demon used puppets to detonate the ammunition depot in Shangjing City and cause so many casualties. As long as that person can provide information about the dream demon, any condition is negotiable." "Yes, I'll keep it in mind. You can leave now. You're also the target of the dream demon. Take care of yourself." "Okay, thanks for your concern, Your Excellency." Xia Pingan then left Lin Yi's office. Lin Yi looked at Xia Pingan's back as he left. He frowned slightly as a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. Not knowing why, when Lin Yi saw Xia Pingan last time, he could still see through the cultivation realm of Xia Pingan. However, after only a few days, Lin Yi felt that Xia Pingan had become blurred in his perception. Something inside Xia Pingan's body seemed to have become more profound and could not be seen through so easily. This was the sign and reaction of the spirit and soul becoming stronger in a short period of time. Once the invisible inner changes occurred, the body and the external changes would also be subtle. The shallow water in the brook could be seen to the bottom at a glance. However, as the water deepened, it would be more difficult to see to the bottom. Xia Pingan's situation was like this. Xia Pingan walked out of the Ping Mountain Barracks. The carriage was waiting for him outside. He got on the carriage and asked the coachman to return to Changle Alley. "Has the matter of the Huang family been settled?" the iron-masked man asked. "Yes." Xia Pingan nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing his enemies in Shangjing City being dealt with one by one, Xia Pingan felt that his footsteps were much lighter. It could be said that once the Huang family was dealt with, there was no one in Shangjing City who dared to bare their teeth at him. The Sun family, the Huang family, the Fire Dragon gang, the Garrison Legion, the director of the Jinyang District Police Station, and the inspector of Jinyang District, Yao Yuchang. These people had great power in Shangjing. However, in a short period of time, they had either submitted to Xia Pingan or been trampled by Xia Pingan. Thinking of this, even the iron-masked man felt that Xia Pingan was too powerful. It was simply unfortunate to be Xia Pingan's opponent. "I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what a person like you can do in Shangjing for a few more years." The iron-masked man looked at Xia Pingan, stroked his chin, and said a joke that he found funny. "The commander of the Judgment Army? Or, you can't marry a princess, become the emperor's son-in-law, and become a relative of the emperor, right?" Xia Pingan also smiled and didn't say much. However, in his heart, Xia Pingan's heart inexplicably tightened, and his gaze became deep. The iron-masked man's words reminded him of a problem. How long could he stay in Shangjing? Ever since the nightmare demon had escaped, Xia Pingan's heart had been hanging, and he couldn't calm down. His uneasiness was because his subconscious, superconsciousness, or telepathy were all good. No matter what it was, he felt danger and discomfort, so he couldn't calm down. Xia Pingan knew that he would definitely become a target of the Blood Demon Church, but it was hard to predict how much effort and determination the Blood Demon Church would put in to eliminate him. He could continue to stay in Shangjing and lure the people of the Blood Demon Church to take the bait, and then use the power of the Judgment Army and the Shang Dynasty to consume the Blood Demon Church's power. At the same time, he could continue to collect realm pearls for cultivation. There was another choice, which was to immediately leave Shangjing, go to a new place, and start anew. In this way, the Blood Demon Church wouldn't be able to find his whereabouts, and his safety would be guaranteed to the greatest extent. These two choices each had their advantages and disadvantages. To be honest, he had just established a situation in Shangjing, and everything was going smoothly. His future was limitless. Xiao really didn't want to leave just like that. However, if he stayed, the dangers he would face were completely unknown. Thinking of Red Leaf Villa, Xiao heart moved. His matters in Shangjing had come to an end today. Tonight, he could let boy Fu Shan go to Red Leaf Villa to see what was there. At the same time, on the sea, a fishing boat was floating alone in the sea. The deck was empty, and not a single person could be seen. In such a sea, such a fishing boat might not meet a single person even if it floated for 3 to 5 months. In the cabin of the fishing boat, a thick stench of blood was emitted and blood was flowing out of the cabin. The captain and a few boatmen on the fishing boat were all lying on the ground at this moment. Nightmare, whose face was covered in blood and who was still wearing the crew's clothes, was panting. He waved the bloody machete in his hand and was cruelly dismembering the people on the boat. The wooden floor of the cabin had been turned into a pile of firewood. Following a series of muffled bangs, bloody knife scars were left on the floor. Finally, the dismemberment was complete. Nightmare placed the heads of the people in the middle, and then used the bodies and dismemberment of the people on the outside, forming a bloody sacrificial pattern of the evil demon's eye. Wiping the blood on his face, Nightmare knelt in front of the evil demon's eye. He took out a mysterious statue from his spatial equipment and placed it on a table. Then, he started kneeling and praying according to the ritual, offering sacrifices and muttering incantations. Supreme Demon God, Eternal Ruler, your humble servants are using the fear and flesh of all living beings to sacrifice to you. I pray to connect with you. I found a void walker that can enter the spiritual realm. After a short moment, an indescribably terrifying power broke through the air and appeared on that small statue. The waves of the sea outside seemed to be still at this moment, like an insect that didn't dare to breathe in front of a ferocious beast. That bumpy fishing boat was suddenly pulled up from the sea and floated in the air. The entire fishing boat was emitting a terrifying bloody light. Nightmare was startled. He had never encountered this kind of situation before. He was kneeling on the ground when he was suddenly pulled up by an indescribable power and floated in the air. He knelt and didn't dare to raise his head. But in Nightmare's mind, within his consciousness, a voice that could make the entire world tremble echoed. You said you found a void walker that can directly enter the spiritual realm? Could this be the voice of the demon God Sovereign? Even the temple master couldn't talk to the demon God Sovereign. This was a supreme honor, shock, joy, as well as that uncontrollable fear and reverence, made Nightmare's mind and consciousness completely blank. That voice didn't need Nightmare to answer. Instead, it tyrannically extracted all of Nightmare's memories. Finally, found you. You want to play this game? Then come. The demon God Sovereign's voice rumbled in Nightmare's consciousness. Chapter 329. To the north of Shangjing City was Ping Mountain. Further north of Ping Mountain was the outskirts of Shangjing City. Here, there were fewer mountains and more mountains. Everywhere one went, the mountain ridges intersected with each other. These were the residences and private manors of Shangjing City's officials and nobles. The Royal Hunting Park was also to the north. More than 20 li away from Ping Mountain was Fengtai Mountain. Fengtai Mountain's scenery was beautiful. Everywhere, there were waterfalls and streams. Summer was the coolest, so there were many summer manors and villas on the mountain. At the foot of Fengtai Mountain was a military camp of the garrison army. A division of soldiers was stationed there. At night, Fengtai Mountain was brightly lit. The lights on the mountain and the lights in the barracks complemented each other, creating a different atmosphere. Tonight, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Fengtai Mountain was as quiet as usual. Under the starry sky, a mischievous figure that ordinary people couldn't see was rushing from Shangjing City to Fengtai Mountain. That figure didn't fly or walk. In a flash, it was already several li away. It was so fast that it was difficult for people to catch sight of it. In the blink of an eye, that figure flashed to the foot of Fengtai Mountain and directly broke into the garrison army's military camp. It slipped around the barracks, warehouses, training grounds, and armory. After a round, it seemed that it found the military camp boring. It also seemed that it remembered its purpose for coming here. Just as the figure left the military camp, it flashed and passed a group of soldiers who were patrolling the road outside the military camp. With another flash, the figure appeared at the top of a villa halfway up the mountain. With a third flash, it had already arrived at the top of Fontai Mountain and stood in front of a huge villa that occupied a vast area. At the entrance of the villa, there was a black plaque with golden words on it. On it were the words Red Leaves Villa. Red Leaves Villa was surrounded by maple trees. That was why the villa was named Red Leaves Villa. At the moment, it was midsummer. The maple leaves on the mountain weren't red yet. Therefore, nothing special could be seen. The entrance of the villa under the plaque was like a tower. When Child of Fortune arrived, the entrance of Red Leaves Villa was tightly shut. 2 strings of red lanterns hung at the entrance. Under the lanterns, there were 2 men wearing dark red guard uniforms. They had stern expressions and strong bodies. They were holding onto the sabers at their waists. Their eyes were cold as they watched the mountain road leading to the villa. From the outside, there was nothing special about Red Leaves Villa except for its grandeur and its large area. However, the grandeur, those who could build manors and villas here didn't lack money. The villas, courtyards, and private gardens all had their own style. The naughty boy of blessings jumped onto the shoulders of the 2 guards. From one person's head to the other person's head, the 2 guards didn't feel anything. At this moment, a low-key black carriage drove over from the winding mountain road. Pulling the carriage were 4 black horses, and the people in the carriage were obviously rich and respectable at first glance. When the carriage arrived at the entrance of Red Leaves Villa, the person inside the carriage didn't open the door. He only opened the window slightly, revealing a white and chubby hand. He held a maple leaf-shaped token in his hand and handed it over. An imperial bodyguard who was guarding the entrance came forward to inspect it. He then looked at the person sitting inside the carriage before turning around and waving his hand. Fontai, Fontai. Hey! Ed Fontai, Fontai, Fontai. Gate! Child of Fortune. Riding on his horse, Child of Fortune followed the carriage into the villa. Behind the gate of the villa was a bamboo forest. That bamboo forest was like a barrier, tall and dense. The road that the carriage was advancing on passed through that bamboo forest and went straight to the interior of the villa. On both sides of the road, there was a gurgling brook. The water in the brook was steaming and clear. The antique stone lamps on the side of the road had been lit, emitting a bright yellow light. The light and the mist in the brook intertwined, making it both bright and dark. The fragrance of flowers was everywhere, making it seem like a fairyland. Child of Fortune was restless. As soon as the carriage entered Red Leaves Villa, the boy of fortune disappeared from the horse he was riding. In the next second, he arrived near a group of patrolling guards in the villa and jumped on the shoulders of those guards. In the next second, the boy of fortune arrived in the bamboo forest. There were several special figures in the bamboo forest that attracted the boy of fortune's attention. Among those figures, one was underground. One was transparent. It was hidden in several bamboos. There was also one figure hiding in the stream and one figure hiding in the mist. Even with the eyes of Summoner, it was almost impossible to find these silhouettes because these silhouettes were casting summoners. They were hiding in the bamboo forest in different forms, as if they didn't exist. Only in Child of Fortune's eyes, these summoners were eye-catching. Aside from those summoners, there was also a hidden danger within the bamboo forest. On the ground of the bamboo forest, under the ground, the bamboo leaves, the innumerable bamboo bodies, the streams, and the mist, there are all kinds of fatal magical techniques, traps, mechanisms, and obstacles stacked one after another. There were also powerful summoners lying in ambush. If anyone wanted to sneak into the Red Leaves Villa from the forest, there was only a path to death. Child of Fortune strolled around the bamboo forest and looked at all the traps and mechanisms. In the next second, he flashed out of the bamboo forest and returned to the side of the carriage that had just entered the Red Leaf Villa. The carriage had already stopped in a parking lot behind the bamboo forest. The carriage door opened, and a pot-bellied man with a head full of black hair and no wrinkles on his face came out of the carriage. This man had an official aura. At a glance, one could tell that he was a person of high status and lived like a prince. A tall and thin man, wearing black clothes, was respectfully welcoming him at the door of the carriage along with two 11 or 12-year-old boys with red lips and white teeth. Those two boys looked very delicate and pretty, but their eyes were somewhat dull. Surely long time no see. Seeing that pot-bellied man come out of the carriage, that tall and thin man came over with a smile. "Sigh, the city has been in a mess for the past 2 days. His Majesty is very angry, and all of you are busy, so I can only accompany you. Just now, on the way here, I was checked several times. I have to go back tonight," officially said as he walked. "Understood. Everything has been arranged for Sir. It's all fresh and won't take up Sir's time. Sir, please follow me." Surly followed that tall and thin man to a villa at the side. That tall and thin man walked Surly to the door of the villa and then made a gesture of invitation. "Everything is inside. Sir, you can go in and enjoy. The effect of the immortal blood essence last time wasn't very good," Surly said in a picky manner. "Surly, don't worry. We have already changed a new batch. This time, Surly will know once you try it." "Ah, that's good, that's good." Hearing that there was a new batch of immortal blood essence, Surly's eyes lit up. He couldn't help but lick his lips and somewhat impatiently pushed open the door of the villa. What Surly didn't know was that Child of Fortune was sitting on his head and followed him into the room. On the table in the room on the first floor of the villa, there was a red box. Surly walked straight to the table and directly opened the box. In the box, there was a transparent glass bottle as thick as a thumb and as long as a palm. Beside the glass bottle were 2 pieces of ice giving off chilly air. The glass bottle was full of blood-red liquid, which seemed to be fresh blood. At the sight of that glass bottle, Surly hurriedly took it and opened its mouth. Closely after that, he directly poured all the blood-red liquid into his mouth. At the same time, he even licked his lips. After drinking the liquid in the bottle, Surly sat on the sofa on the side and closed his eyes. It seemed that he was savoring the taste of the liquid in the bottle. Under the gaze of Child of Fortune, in less than 5 minutes, Surly's face started to glow as if he had been filled with vigor. Even the fine wrinkles at the corners of his eyes seemed to have been smoothed out. "Good stuff." Surly let out a sigh of satisfaction. Child of Fortune jumped on the table, stretched out his finger, and touched the glass bottle that Surly had just drunk. Inside the bottle was human blood, but it wasn't ordinary human blood. It was the blood of a child. This blood was different from ordinary blood. It seemed to have a vitality similar to that of a god. After touching the remaining blood in the bottle, Child of Fortune instantly sensed where the owner of the blood was. His figure flashed and disappeared from the room of the villa. In the next second, Child of Fortune appeared in a dark underground prison. "No, don't. Save me. Mommy, mommy. I want mommy. It hurts, it hurts." The underground prison was like hell. On both sides of the passageway, there were iron cages everywhere. Within the iron cages, children were locked in the narrow iron cages like reared animals. They were crying loudly. Rows and rows of iron cages were placed together, just like a breeding ground. This was the hell of children. As soon as Child of Fortune appeared, countless screams and pleas for mercy filled his ears. Those screams and pleas for mercy came from the countless children in the cages in the underground prison. There were boys and girls among those children, and all of them were above the age of 3 and below the age of 10. They were locked in iron cages, and some of them were hung upside down by iron chains. There were countless wounds on their bodies, and some of them were being forced to drink medicine. Some of them were having their blood drawn, and some of them were suffering unimaginable abuse. At first glance, there were over 1,000 children locked up in the dungeon. Everything here was like an assembly line, proceeding in an orderly manner. A group of people wearing white clothes were busy here. Chapter 330. Boy of Fortune quickly found the owner of the blood. It was a 6 or 7-year-old little boy who was hung upside down on an iron frame without a single piece of clothing. Long black thorns flashing with the brilliance of runes were piercing into the little boy's various organs. Several men in white were using huge syringes to insert into the little boy's body, drawing out fresh blood for the little boy's body. This blood bag has already drawn 3 vials of immortal blood essence today. It's done. A man in white said after drawing out 3 vials of blood essence. He then waved his hand, letting the others put down the unconscious little boy from the iron frame. After feeding him a pill, he was thrown into the iron cage and taken away. In the same room, there was more than one person who was having their blood drawn. Next to the little boy, there was another 5 or 6-year-old little girl who was also suffering inhuman abuse. The little girl was as thin as a match, with huge dark circles around her eyes. Her eyes had lost the slightest bit of luster, leaving only turbidity and fear. Several vital parts of her body, like the boy who was taken away, were pierced with black thorns. Several other men in white were using a needle to insert into the little girl's body, drawing blood from the little girl, and drawing the blood into a glass bottle wrapped in ice. The little girl's body was trembling slightly. The luster in her eyes was getting dimmer and dimmer, and the amount of blood that could be drawn out was decreasing little by little. This blood bag is already done. With a final stimulation, we should be able to squeeze out a little bit of immortal blood essence. A man who was drawing blood said. Hearing this, a person next to him directly took out a red-hot hook from the stove next to him and pierced into the little girl's abdomen. A burnt smell floated up. The little girl trembled, struggled, and screamed, and some new blood suddenly gushed out from the needle that had already run out of blood. But in the blink of an eye, the little girl's scarred body lost all signs of life. She was put down from the rack by a person in white clothes. Like trash, she was casually thrown onto a cart and sent to a cave not far away, where she was thrown into the cave. There was a pond in the cave, and there were dozens of red-eyed crocodile horned beasts in the pond. The crocodile horned beasts were 7 to 8 meters long. They were shaped like crocodiles with horns on their heads. When they opened their mouths were filled with sharp teeth. The little girl's body was thrown into the water. Several crocodile horned beasts began to fight for her. In the blink of an eye, a crocodile horned beast swallowed the little girl, leaving nothing behind. After a while, another small cart pushed the corpses of 2 children into the murky and bloody pool of the cave, ushering in a new round of fighting between the crocodiles. In the next second, Child of Fortune's figure left this hell-like dungeon and appeared outside. A black horse carriage was parked in a sealed warehouse in Red Leaves Villa. Several people were busy working. The carriage was easily lifted from the carriage frame by a crane within the warehouse. At the bottom of the carriage, there was a mezzanine, and within the mezzanine were several boxes. With such an arrangement, even if someone got on the carriage, they wouldn't be able to detect it unless the person inspecting the carriage dismantled it. The busy people here took out the boxes from the mezzanine under the carriage and opened them. Each box contained a motionless child. The person who had driven the carriage here complained. Steward Chu, Shangjing is now too strict with the inspection, so we can only use this method to transport things up. It's too time-consuming, and it's not as easy to transport goods from other places as before. This month, several goods have already died on the way, and we still have to deal with them. Wait a little longer. It won't take long for the order in Shangjing City to be restored, a bald man said. Then he checked the children in the box. Seeing that they were still alive, he nodded gently and signaled someone to take the children away immediately. The boy of fortune flashed and disappeared from the warehouse. The next second, the boy of fortune appeared in another room. In this room, 3 men were drinking scarlet liquid from crystal glasses and chatting. Lord Ling, I'll have to trouble you with a special budget this time. His Highness King Jing has already promised the Black Cloud Fleet and the 11th Corps. You won't make things difficult for His Highness King Jing, will you? It's a little difficult. What if Lord Wu doesn't agree? If he makes a fuss, won't it be hard to explain to the Crown Prince? A man drinking scarlet liquid said with a slightly troubled expression. Don't worry, Lord Ling. King Jing is already back. He'll personally take care of Lord Wu. Lord Ling just needs to agree. As long as Lord Ling signs, Lord Wu won't ask any questions, and this matter will become a fait accompli. His Majesty won't interfere, and the Crown Prince won't have anything to say. Lord Ling, don't forget which side you're on. Then all right, this. Steward Lin, I've been feeling a little weak lately, and I'm a little old. Lord Ling sighed with emotion. If this matter is settled, Lord Ling's immortal blood essence will be doubled next year. Ah, good, good. Lord Ling nodded in satisfaction. Steward Lin, who had just made a promise to Lord Ling, looked at the other person next to him. Lord Song, I'll have to trouble you with the police. The Great Shang Nation's police force is too tight, so our immortal blood essence supply isn't as smooth. Recently, several of our subordinates who went out on missions have been arrested by local police. It's a little troublesome. Lord Song smiled ingratiatingly. Don't worry, Steward Lin. I've already asked someone to do some research recently, and there's a way for our subordinates to avoid trouble. Oh, what's that? Steward Lin, you can tell them that if they're caught by the police in the future, they'll have to pretend that they're mental patients who aren't in the right mind. I'll give the local police an order. If they encounter a mental patient committing a crime, like robbing or kidnapping a child, they should release the patient as soon as possible. They have to be tolerant of mental patients and not pursue the matter. In any case, the child is fine. The most important thing is to send the patient to a hospital as soon as possible or have the patient's family come and claim him. I can make trouble for the local police who want to imprison mental patients. Ha ha ha. Lord Song's idea is good. In the future, we'll have to rely on you. When His Highness ascends the throne in the future, all of you will have rendered meritorious service to His Highness. It's our duty. It's our duty. The three people in the room laughed. They clinked glasses and downed the scarlet liquid in one gulp. The remaining scarlet liquid hung from their mouths, as if they were eating people. In the secret room in Changle Alley, Xia Pingon opened his eyes at once. In any case, Xia Pingon didn't expect that the Boy of Fortune would see such a hellish scene in Red Leaf Villa. Batch after batch of kidnapped children were sent to the Red Leaf Villa. Underneath the Red Leaf Villa, all of the children became the source of the immortal blood essence, and they were currently suffering inhumane treatment. It was cruel enough to take the gall from a live bear, but the fate of those children in Red Leaf Villa was even worse than the gall from a bear in a cage. Xia Pingon knew what the immortal blood essence was. It wasn't magic, but a taboo technique related to life, which had been passed down since ancient times. All the children before puberty, in extreme fear and pain, their adrenaline would secrete a strange substance. This strange substance was secreted by the children in times of fear and pain. It was the legendary Immortal Spring. After taking this Immortal Spring, people would become young, full of youth and vitality. If you think that those missing children would be adopted, then you're imagining the darkness and evil of this world to be too beautiful and kind. The one who controlled Red Leaf Villa was Prince Jing, the brother of Beitang Wanchuan, who Xia Pingon had never met. Prince Jing hid behind the scenes, but used the immortal blood essence of Red Leaf Villa to control and rope in a large number of high-ranking officials and dignitaries of the Shang dynasty. This Red Leaf Villa involved the royal family of the Shang dynasty, and also involved countless high-ranking officials and dignitaries of Shangjing City. Once it was revealed, the entire Shangjing City would face a huge shock. Did he have the ability to shake such a large interest group? In the secret room, Xia Pingon's gaze became more and more profound, and also more and more cold. Chapter 331. At night, at the gate of the camp of Judgment Army at the foot of Ping Mountain, after hearing the clear and rapid hoofbeats in the dark, the two sentries of Judgment Army at the gate of the camp instantly turn around and watch the street in the dark with vigilant looks. Galloping was forbidden in Shangjing City unless it was an emergency. Additionally, as it was so late, the hoofbeats were obviously coming from the gate of the camp of Judgment Army. Therefore, the two sentries of Judgment Army at the gate had to be alert. The sound of horse hoofs drew closer. In the blink of an eye, the two sentries at the gate of the camp saw a person on a black horse rushing out of the street, and heading straight for the gate of the camp of Judgment Army. Stop! One of the sentries raised his hand and warned the knight who was rushing towards him. The horse was as wild as a dragon, while the man was as fierce as a tiger. When the horse rushed to the gate of the camp of Judgment Army, it neighed as it almost stood up at once. At the same time, the rider had already jumped off the back of the horse. After that, the horse turned around and entered a black smoke before being recalled back to the secret mandala. In the air, Xiao Pingon had already taken out the envoy inspector's waist token. When the eyes of the two Judgment Army soldiers lit up, he didn't stop moving. He just tapped the ground outside the camp and flew into the Judgment Army's Ping Mountain camp. With the waist token of the envoy inspector, Zhang Tai could enter the camp of Ping Mountain as smoothly as returning to his hometown. Not until Xiao Pingon disappeared at the gate of the camp did the two sentries of Judgment Army turn around and throw a glance at his back. "Is he Xiao Pingon, the envoy inspector of Dongyang?" one of the sentries asked. "He should be. I saw him last time when he came to the camp. It's said that he's very popular." Soon after he became the envoy inspector, he had already been known by all the people across Shangjing City. The sentries said with admiration, "That's because he's capable. He even dared break into the governor's mansion to arrest people." It said that even the garrison corps suffered a setback in front of him. To be honest, I admire him very much. If there's a chance in the future, why not train in the supervision department? It's much more comfortable than in this camp. It seems that he has something urgent to deal with. Maybe. After coming to the camp of Judgment Army, Xiao Pingon went straight to Lin Yi's courtyard and asked to see Lin Yi. Lin Yi's attendant brought Xiao Pingon to Lin Yi's parlor. After waiting for a while, Xiao Pingon saw Lin Yi, who was wearing a long robe, striding in. "It's already so late. What's the matter?" Lin Yi naturally knew that Xiao Pingon wouldn't come to the Three Treasures Palace without a reason. He immediately asked directly. "Commander, didn't you say that if I had any news about Nightmare, I could come to you directly?" As soon as he heard Xiao Pingon say the word Nightmare, Lin Yi immediately became spirited. During the day, he went to the palace to see the emperor. His Majesty the Emperor asked about the Nightmare, and the Judgment Army was under a lot of pressure. One dream demon had already disturbed the peace of Shangjing City. No one knew where Dream Demon was going to cause trouble the next time. "You have news of Judgment Army? Lin Yi asked directly. "I just received a message from that person. He said that he had caught some traces of Judgment Army, but Xiao Pingon deliberately left something unsaid." "But what?" Lin Yi asked. "But that person said that the Dream Demon's whereabouts were strange, and he was extremely careful. He was constantly changing his identity. Furthermore, the Dream Demon would only stay in one place for a short period of time. That person sent me a message, and I sent it to the Judgment Army. If the Judgment Army mobilized people to ambush him, the process would take too long. It would be very difficult to catch the Dream Demon." Lin Yi frowned slightly. "How does that person usually contact you?" "I don't know how he contacts me. Usually, he's the one who looks for me. I can't find him at all. When he looks for me, no matter where I am, I can hear his voice in my ears. He can also hear what I say. I don't know how he does it. Maybe it's some kind of secret method. Can that person hold Judgment Army of Judgment Army of Judgment Army?" I told him before that as long as he can hold or capture Judgment Army of Judgment Army, he can ask for anything. Judgment Army will give him a very generous reward, but that person refused. He said that he will only provide me with information, but he won't personally deal with Blood Demon Church. All right, he just told me that Blood Demon Church has buried a bigger bomb in Shangjing City that hasn't been discovered by Judgment Army. The bomb of Blood Demon Church is going to explode and shake the whole Shan Kingdom. Judgment Army of Judgment Army is just a pawn of Blood Demon Church in Shangjing City. Lin Yi's eyes flashed and his eyebrows raised. Blood Demon Church has a bigger bomb in Shangjing City that hasn't been discovered by us? Did that person really say that? Yes, that's what he told me. Because of the importance of this matter, I came to see you in the middle of the night. In your opinion, how should we deal with this matter? I'm just a small envoy inspector. For such a big matter, I will naturally listen to your arrangement. Xiao Pingan lowered his eyes and looked honest. Lin, he stared at Xiao Pingan's face. Are you afraid of death? Of course I'm afraid. But if it's my duty, I won't hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Very good. Lin, he heard and nodded. With his hands behind his back and a serious face, he started to pace in the living room. After pacing a few rounds, he clapped his hands lightly and a servant appeared in the living room. Sir, ask the 4 shadow guards and Lu Tai's-ho to come see me immediately. Yes. The servant immediately turned around and left. Ahem, sir, I conveyed that person's message. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Xiao Pingan looked obedient. Lin, he wanted to summon other important figures in Judgment Army. As a small envoy inspector, it seemed a little inappropriate for him to stay here, so he took the initiative to take his leave. Wait a moment, I'll introduce a few people to you later and arrange things for you. As Lin spoke, he clapped his hands lightly again and a servant served tea. Lin, he asked Xiao Pingan to sit at the side. This is the spirit fog tea that I drank myself. Try it. Thank you, sir. The 2 of them drank the tea. 10 minutes later, the 5 of them were led into the living room by Lin Yi's servant. Out of the 5 people, Xiao Pingan had met 4 of them. They were Grandma Yu, Master Mao Mao, Devil Blade, and the Scholar. Devil Blade was invisible and had followed Xiao Pingan for a period of time. He usually hid in the void and never showed his appearance or body, just like an invisible person. This was Xiao Pingan's first time seeing him in person. Devil Blade was wrapped in white cloth and wore a white robe. He was white from head to toe, and his fingernails were not even exposed. Only a pair of eyes could be seen through the white cloth wrapped around his face. Even his eyes were white. He gave off a strange demonic aura, just like a mummy. Grandma, you wasn't carrying her flower basket. Master Mao Mao wasn't holding a fishing rod, and the Scholar wasn't holding a pen. The 3 of them looked very serious. Lu Tai was tall and had a long beard on his face. There were 2 sabers, one long and one short, on his waist. He was also wearing iron gloves, which were usually worn by the Judgment Army. He was as silent as thunder, but his body was full of murderous intent. Greetings, Commander. The 5 of them saluted Lin Yi at the same time. Their eyes unconsciously glanced at Xiao Pingan, who was standing obediently at the side. This is Xiao Pingan, the Dongging inspector. Lin Yi didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point, introducing Xiao Pingan to the 5 of them. Xiao Pingan was also a member of the Shadow Squad. Perhaps you have heard of this name before, but there's one more thing that you may not know. From the time the Crown Prince was assassinated to the killing of the 4 demons, all the important information about the Blood Demon Church in Shangjing City came from him. Without him, the Blood Demon Church might still be doing whatever they want in Shangjing City, and the 4 demons wouldn't have been killed. Hearing Lin Yi's words, the 5 of them looked at Xiao Pingan differently, with a hint of surprise. How did Xiao Pingan manage to locate the whereabouts of the 4 demons and know about the Blood Demon Church's plot to assassinate the Crown Prince? Now that the 4 demons have been killed, only Dream Demon is still wreaking havoc in Shangjing City. Dream Demon is cunning and elusive, so he is very difficult to deal with. Moreover, Dream Demon and the Blood Demon Church may still be hiding many remnants in Shangjing City. This time, the Shadow Squad wants to kill Dream Demon and further eliminate the remnants of the Blood Demon Church in Shangjing City, so we have to take extreme measures. We must succeed in one blow and not let Dream Demon and the remnants escape. Therefore, I have summoned you 5 people. Lin Yi glanced at the faces of the 5 people with a serious look. From now on, until Dream Demon is killed, the 5 of you will be under the command of Xiao Pingan. As long as the location of the operation doesn't involve the Imperial City, you can act freely. If the location involves the Imperial City, you have to report to me and get my permission to act. Is there a problem? The 5 of them looked at Xiao Pingan again and bowed to Lin. Yes, sir. As long as the location of the operation didn't involve the Imperial City, it was impossible to cause a big mess. Moreover, the 5 of them were veterans of the Judgment Army and the Shadow Squad. Xiao Pingan couldn't possibly command them to do anything illegal. Lin, he was very confident in the abilities of the 5 people. However, Xiaoping's face was full of fear. He quickly bowed to Lin Yi and said, "Your Excellency, this can't be done. The 5 of them are my seniors, and their cultivation experience is 10 times better than mine. How can I dare to command the 5 seniors to do things? Your Excellency, please take back your order." Hearing Xiaoping's words, the 5 people looked at Xiaoping with a gentler look. They thought that this kid was sensible. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "I've made up my mind. You don't have to say anymore. If you want to deal with extraordinary people, you can only use extraordinary means. From now on, I officially authorize you. As long as you get information about Dream Demon, you don't have to ask for my permission. You can immediately command them to kill Dream Demon and the remaining members of the Blood Demon Church. The 5 of them are veterans of the Shadow Squad. They know the severity of the matter and will definitely cooperate with you." "Then all right," Xiaoping nodded. Chapter 332. At the same time, in a mysterious place in the Gold Moon continent, in the Golden Moon Hall of the Blood Demon Church, in a huge, deep well, as before, the sacrifice of the devils, I continued. 360 living people had their bones crushed by the wooden puppets, and then they were placed at the bottom of the cave to form the sacrificial pattern of the devil's eye. Screams, cries, begging for mercy, and cursing filled the entire cave. Then in the dense holes on the walls around the deep well, snake-like strange insect crawled out of the holes and quickly rushed toward the demon eye's sacrificial totem in the field. The people who were sacrificed became food for the strange insects, but they could not move. They could only watch themselves and the people around them being devoured by the strange insects bit by bit. Death was a luxury for them. Unspeakable fear, pain, and despair boiled in the deep well, overflowing and dissipating in the void, as if they were being devoured by an invisible big mouth. The invisible consciousness energy that finally erupted from the sacrificed people was full of negative and desperate aura. It was the last struggle of life, the last curse, endless darkness and pain. The 2 moons in the sky shone in through the gaps in the surrounding towering mountains. The moonlight converged into a blood-red light that shone on the eyeball of the devil's eye at the bottom of the deep well. The blood-red eyeball seemed to come alive. Countless strange insects wriggled on the bodies of those people, as if the eye was gently blinking. In the palace above the deep well, the palace master, who was wearing a black robe, had a devilishly handsome face and a trace of blood in his eyes, was sitting on the throne in front of a huge demon god statue in the palace. He coldly looked at the dense crowd standing in the palace. The 5 demons entered Shangjing City. Until now, 4 of them have died, but Shangjing City is still singing and dancing. The strength of the Shang dynasty is really unexpected. Who can tell me, is Shangjing City of the Shang dynasty a forbidden area of our Blood Demon Church? When did Beidang Zhao become so strong? The young man's voice echoed in the palace. It was neither happy nor angry, but it was full of an oppressive aura. No one could answer. The young man was about to say something, but at this moment, the void above the deep well seemed to split open. An unimaginably terrifying pressure and will suddenly descended on the huge demon god statue in the palace. The eyes of the huge demon god statue slowly opened, revealing a pair of blood-red eyes. With just a glance, everyone in the hall was forced to kneel on the ground by the terrifying pressure, trembling physically and mentally. The demon god had descended. The demon god had descended. Everyone was screaming in their hearts, trembling in awe. Every living being was like a speck of dust in a storm, completely surrendering in front of that terrifying power. Pass down the order of the demon god. From now on, all the members of the Demon God Church who worship me in all the continents in the Yuanxiu world are to kill the space walker Xiaoping at all costs. Whoever can kill Xiaoping, no matter who it is, I will give him the eternal divine spring to help him condense the body of immortality. Whoever can sacrifice Xia Pingan to me will receive the blood of the demon god. I will personally ignite the divine fire and condense the divine wheel. The extraordinary will and voice surged like a tsunami, echoing in the whole world and everyone's consciousness. After the voice and will had dissipated for quite a while, those who were kneeling in the hall recovered from the indescribable pressure and will and stood up in fear and trepidation. The sovereign demon god had personally issued the demon god order to everyone: kill Ping and obtain the body of immortality. If they could sacrifice Xia Pingan, they would be directly apotheosized. In a long history of the Blood Demon Church for tens of thousands of years, the demonic god order had only been issued twice. It was during a few earth-shaking battles of the gods in ancient times. The will of the dominating demonic god had descended and personally issued the demonic god order twice. This was the third time for a mortal. Moreover, the highest reward was actually apotheosized. Immortality apotheosized. Everyone was shocked. In the next second, the devilishly handsome hall master was the first to soar into the air. Without saying a word, he flew directly into the air and disappeared in an instant. The remaining people in the hall were stunned for 2 seconds. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. They all flew up one by one and flew in the same direction. The demon god order was the highest order and will, surpassing everything. Except for the people of the Blood Demon Church. As long as anyone completed the mission on the demon god order, they would be rewarded by the sovereign demon god. They were the closest to the Shang dynasty. If they waited for a while longer, the experts from other continents would flock over. The opportunity to obtain immortality and apotheosized was in Shangjing City. Crazy. When the sky was slightly bright, Luo Laoji found a black horse carriage parked at the entrance of the inspection department. Then, Xia Pingan alighted from the carriage. The iron-masked man followed beside Xia Pingan. There was also a small black pig following behind the iron-masked man. "Good morning, sir." Luo Laoji rushed out of the gatehouse and greeted Xia Pingan with an exceptionally bright smile. The Donggang inspection department had already distributed the salary and bonus for last month. The monthly income was more than last year's. Luo Laoji also received a share. This made Luo Laoji very happy. Even when he greeted Xia Pingan, he was more enthusiastic from the bottom of his heart. Today, the envoy inspector came especially early. It was the earliest he had ever come. Luo Laoji did not dare to ask too much. He could only watch as Xia Pingan entered the building of the inspection department. As usual, Wei Meiyu also arrived at the office early to clean up. Once Xia Pingan arrived at the office, he asked Wei Meiyu to inform Qi Dafeng to come to the office. "Sir, you called for me?" Qi Dafeng was also very respectful in front of Xia Pingan. "Bring that martial artist to see me, and then go through the formalities for that martial artist's release from prison. I've already investigated his matter, and there isn't much harm. According to the charge of illegally possessing dangerous goods, he has already served his sentence here." Xia Pingan said directly. Although Qi Dafeng still had some doubts in his heart, since Xia Pingan had spoken, he did not say anything more. He saluted, turned around, and left to make arrangements. Only after a while, that level 8 warrior with a terrifying face came to Xia Pingan's office. He was looking at Xia Pingan with a surprised and doubtful look. He just heard that the envoy inspector was going to let him go. He still felt that it was inconceivable. "You're free today. I'll let you go today. But you can't stay in Shangjing City for long. You have to leave Shang country." Xia Pingan said to Gui Nu. "Why?" Gui Nu asked in a low voice. "No reason. Your face is too scary in Shangjing City. Find a place to stay in the future. Don't wander around Shangjing City if you have nothing to do." After speaking to Gui Nu, Xia Pingan looked at the iron-masked man in the room. "Brother Iron-Masked, I'll have to trouble you this time. Escort him out of Shang country by boat. After leaving Shang country, you can unlock the shackles on him." The iron-masked man didn't expect that Xia Pingan would suddenly arrange such a task for him. "If you take a boat to send him out of the Shang dynasty, it will take at least half a month for the round trip. Your safety, it doesn't matter. I have a special task these days. I'm surrounded by a bunch of masters of the Judgment Army. I'm afraid that no one will come to trouble me." Hearing Xia Pingan's words, the iron-masked man looked at Gui Nu's face and nodded. Okay. This task was not difficult for the iron-masked man. He just had to leave Shangjing City temporarily for a few days. Well, remember to put a mask on his face. There's a boat at the dock this morning. I'll give you a task token. You can leave with him now, Xia Pingan said. He took out a task token of the Judgment Army from the drawer and handed it to the iron-masked man. With that task token, he could go out to perform official duties, which could save a lot of trouble. Gui Nu had been looking at Xia Pingan silently. When he heard Xia Pingan's arrangement, his eyes moved, but he did not say a word. The iron-masked man took the token and left with Gui Nu without any nonsense. But when he walked to the door, Gui Nu suddenly looked back at Xia Pingan. You went to that place? Ha ha ha, you think too much. I was busy yesterday, so I didn't leave Shangjing City. Xia Pingan smiled. After a while, Xia Pingan stood at the window and watched the iron-masked man and Gui Nu get on a carriage. The carriage went straight to the dock. Not until the carriage left his sight did Xia Pingan turn around. Looking at this familiar office, he suddenly sighed. Some things had to be done. At noon, in a tea house somewhere in Shangjing City, wearing a hat and a beard, Yin Duo sneakily entered the tea house through the main entrance. He then went up to the second floor of the tea house. After circling around the second floor, he asked for an empty private room. After entering the private room, he sat down by the window. He then opened the window of the private room and scanned the surroundings with a vigilant gaze. Soon after Yin Duo sat down, flapping sounds came from the air. An agile eagle owl suddenly flew in from afar. It directly flew in through the window and through an envelope on the table in front of Yin Duo. Then it flew away. Yin Duo was stunned. He opened the envelope. Inside was a familiar handwriting. There were also several gold notes. The sum of the gold notes added up to more than 1,000,000 gold coins. It was a terrifyingly huge sum of money. After seeing this letter, immediately take your woman and leave Shangjing City today. Don't stay. There will be great changes in the city. The gold notes in the envelope will be used as funds for the Skyminder plan. When appropriate, they will be transferred to others to support the Skyminder plan. Lin Qing has met with misfortune. He sacrificed himself in the hands of the Blood Demon Church for the mission. No matter what happens to me, you must hide and protect yourselves well. Don't expose yourselves. You must prioritize the mission at all times. Don't worry about me. Yin Duo's expression changed. The letter was from Xia Pingan, but Xia Pingan's tone was very resolute, as if something big was going to happen in Shangjing City. After reading the letter, it turned into ashes in Yin Duo's hands. Yin Duo put away the gold notes and took a deep breath. His face showed a trace of determination, and then he quickly left the tea house. Chapter 333. When the sun set, a touch of sunset glow hung over the western side of Shangjing City. The red clouds were like fire, exceptionally gorgeous. Xia Pingan sat alone in a carriage and arrived at Guanlan Mountain Manor, which was located in the north of Ping Mountain. Guanlan Mountain Manor was a large manor not far from Ping Mountain. On the surface, Guanlan Mountain Manor was a summer resort of a wealthy person in Shangjing City. But in fact, it was one of the strongholds of the Shadow Squad of the Judgment Army in Shangjing City. Guanlan Mountain Manor was quiet and secluded. It was located in a secluded valley at the northern foot of Ping Mountain, and there were only a few villages and towns around it. Therefore, no one knew that there was a powerful force hidden in Guanlan Mountain Manor at this moment. It was less than 15 miles away from Fengtai Mountain. As soon as he got out of the carriage, Xia Pingan felt a few invisible gazes falling on him from the surrounding air. He calmly walked to the front of the vermilion gate of the manor and gently knocked twice with the knocker on the gate. After a few seconds, the gate opened a little, revealing a slightly aged face. It was an old man with drooping eyelids and a weak body. He was dressed in the servant uniform of the manor, just like an ordinary gatekeeper. He glanced at Xia Pingan and opened the gate a little more, allowing Xia Pingan to enter. When the gate was closed, Xiao Pingon saw the old man casually waving his hand and setting up 2 rune traps at the gate. Then, without saying a word, he led Xiao Pingon into the manor. There were barely any people in the manor. Of course, this was only on the surface. The sharp knife force of the Shadow Squad was in the manor at this moment. The 4 Shadow Squads and the Iron Hand Battalion were all here. After passing through many courtyards, a winding corridor, and a garden, the old man led Xiao Pingon to a living room and then left silently. There were 4 people in the living room: Granny Yu, Master Mao Mao, the scholar, and Lu Tai's Ho. The 4 of them sat on the 4 armchairs with their eyes closed, like 4 silent statues. They were resting and conserving their energy, but at the same time, they were ready to move out at any time. When Xiao Pingon entered the room, the 4 of them suddenly opened their eyes and looked at Xiao Pingon. Greetings to the 4 seniors. Xiao Pingon, who had just entered the room, bowed to the 4 of them. The 4 of them did not act arrogantly, because Xiao Pingon was their nominal commander and leader. They could ignore Xiao Pingon, but Lin Yi's orders and the rules of the Judgment Army forced them to treat them with caution. They did not dare to overstep their boundaries. The main seat in the room was empty, and no one sat on it. It was left for Xiao Pingon, and the 4 of them sat on both sides of the room. The 4 of them stood up at the same time and bowed to Xiao Pingon. "Where's Senior Devilblade?" Xiao Pingon glanced at the room and asked the obvious. Just before he came here, Child of Fortune had just left. "I'm here too." Devilblade could not be seen in the room, but his voice could be heard. Other than when it was necessary, such as when he met Lin Yi, Devilblade was like an invisible person. He never showed his figure in front of others. Even at this time, Devilblade's voice was erratic in the room. "Is there any news?" Lu Taiho asked in a low voice. "No, I'm also waiting for the news." Xiao Pingon shook his head. "How long do we have to wait?" Lu Taiho continued to ask. "I don't know. We can only wait. It could be a few hours or a few days. Once the news comes, we have to move out immediately," Xiao Pingon said as he walked to the main seat and sat down calmly. "Seniors, please take a rest. If the news comes, you just have to gather here within 20 breaths. Haha, we're not that delicate. Taking a nap here is also a rest. It's the same even if we close our eyes for 8 to 10 days. Master Mao Mao laughed and sat down. He took out a chimney and smoked it. "I'll just do some embroidery. A few days is not a long time." Grandma Yu took out a needle and thread and began to embroider. The scholar was a little cold and did not speak. He just took out a book and began to read it while shaking his head. Lu Taiho also did not speak. He sat down and closed his eyes. They were all experts and naturally had the self-awareness of experts. They knew that before taking action, they had to wait. Sitting here for 3 to 5 days was not a problem at all. No one left the room. Everyone was waiting. Xiao Pingon also sat and closed his eyes. In the blink of an eye, the scene that Child Blessing saw appeared in Xiao Pingon's consciousness. The entire Red Leaf Mountain Villa had been searched by Child Blessing. He knew clearly where the secret passage was, where the things were hidden, how many people were there, and what each person was doing. From yesterday until now, the evil of Red Leaf Mountain Villa had continued. Another 2 children who had been squeezed dry of their immortal blood essence were thrown into the pit of crocodiles. Another 3 rich and powerful people from the capital entered Red Leaf Mountain Villa. The modified carriage came again and brought in a few 5 to 6-year-old children. Xiao Pingon was also waiting. Tonight, he would end it all. Night fell unknowingly, and the room was quiet. In the beginning, the sound of Master Mao Mao smoking his chimney could be heard. After he finished smoking, Master Mao Mao put away the chimney and leaned back on the chair as if he was taking a nap. Only the rustling sound of the scholar reading and flipping books could be heard in the room. Granny Yu was embroidering something in full concentration and silence, and time passed by bit by bit. The sky was filled with stars and the moon. The crickets in Guanlon Mountain Villa began to chirp. The entire villa was immersed in darkness and was quiet. After an unknown period of time, Xiao Pingon closed his eyes. His mind was clear, and his will was as strong as steel. Just as he was estimating the time and was about to open his eyes, he suddenly remembered the scene in his memory, hastily lifting her skirt and flipping over the wall. What a lovely girl! Sigh! Xiao Pingan suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed, and he suddenly stood up. His aura suddenly changed. Several people in the room also opened their eyes at the same time and looked at Xiao Pingan. The news has arrived. From now on, I will personally command tonight's operation. At this moment, Xiao Pingan's tone was no longer as polite as before. He began to give orders directly. Assemble the Iron Hand Battalion. Lu Taizhou glanced at Xiao Pingan and clapped his hands without saying a word. In the garden outside the living room, 72 people wearing black robes, black masks, and black iron gloves silently appeared. Each of the 72 people was as silent as a mountain. Black fog surged around their bodies, as if they were envoys walking out of the darkness. Hide and follow me. Xiao Pingan didn't explain or say anything more. He suddenly leaped out of the room and disappeared. The moment his figure disappeared, a bat appeared and flew directly to the north of the villa. Illusion. Grandma Yu and the others took a look and leaped out of the room one by one, disappearing in an instant. Lu Taizhou jumped out of the room. With a wave of his hand, a black fog enveloped the 72 people of the Iron Hand Battalion. Then he, along with himself, entered the black fog. When the black fog dissipated, everyone had disappeared. The bat flew silently in the darkness, passing through the woods, the stream, the river, and several villages. It flew all the way to the north of the villa and finally flew to the foot of Fengtai Mountain. It bypassed the Garrison Legion's barracks at the foot of Fengtai Mountain and appeared in a pine forest halfway up the mountain. The bat landed on a tree and disappeared. Xiao Pingan's figure appeared once again. Grandma Yu, Master Mao Mao, Yao Dao, Lu Taizhou, and the people of the Iron Hand Battalion also appeared one by one beside Xiao Pingan. Outside the pine forest was a winding mountain road. Following this winding mountain road to the top of the mountain was Red Leaves Villa. A black horse-drawn carriage was moving at a moderate pace on the mountain road. In the darkness of the night, a coachman was driving the carriage. The two lanterns in front of the carriage were moving on the winding mountain road. The bells tied to the horses' necks were constantly tinkling on the silent mountain road. The carriage was approaching this place. Stop that carriage. There's something in the compartment of the carriage. Don't alert anyone. Xiao Pingan ordered. I'm good at this. Let me do it. Master Mao Mao stood up and took 2 steps forward. A jade-green fishing rod appeared in his hand. With a wave of the fishing rod, the coachman, the 2 horses, and the carriage seemed to have been hooked by something and were lifted off the ground. The coachman and the horses were all fixed in place. Their bodies stiffened, and they couldn't make a single sound. Whoosh! Master Mao Mao retracted his fishing rod. The carriage, the 2 horses, and the coachman had already been fished into the pine forest. The horses and the coachman fell to the ground, motionless. Dismantle the carriage. Pay attention to the compartment under the carriage. There's someone in it. Xiao Pingan continued to order. Lu Taizhou didn't say a word. He took a step forward and stretched out his metal-gloved hands. With a clench of his fists, the sturdy carriage, wheels, and chassis of the carriage were all silently dismantled into pieces, revealing 3 leather trunks in the compartment under the carriage. The trunks landed steadily on the ground. Xiao Pingan stepped forward and opened one of the trunks. Inside the trunk was a 5- or 6-year-old girl who was curled up in a ball. The little girl was unconscious. Her face was pale, and she was motionless. He opened the other suitcases and found that they were all filled with children. Granny Yu came over to check. These children have been drugged. If we didn't come tonight, these children would have been sacrificed by those animals. Their deaths would have been worse than an animal's. Xiao Pingan looked at the people around him and said softly, "It's these children's fortune to have met all of you. I thank all of you on behalf of these children's parents." The group of people was silent. However, an astonishing murderous aura surged and roared from all of them. Anyone who could hide the children and transport them here, no matter who they were, could be killed. Grandma Yu stood up and wiped the corners of her eyes. She sighed. Tonight, this old lady wants to kill a few more people. Don't fight with this old lady. After we turn around this call, there are hidden sentries and summoners in the forest ahead. We have to eliminate them. I'll go. Demon Blade's hoarse voice sounded. After a while, Demon Blade returned. Only one voice sounded. I've killed them all. Is there anyone else? Everyone, follow me. This time, Xiao Pingon didn't hide his figure anymore. He directly brought everyone and quickly rushed towards the top of the mountain. In a short while, Redleaf's villa had already appeared in front of everyone. Redleaf Mountain Villa was the same as yesterday. There were 2 guards at the entrance and a red lantern hung at the entrance. Xiao Pingon led the group and stood in the forest. He looked at Redleaf Mountain Villa and coldly gave a bloody order. Except for the children and the head steward, kill everyone in this mountain villa. Don't let anyone go. As soon as Xiao Pingon finished speaking, the heads of the 2 guards at the entrance of the mountain villa flew up. Master Mao Mao waved his fishing rod and disappeared in front of Xiao Pingon. In the next second, in the bamboo forest behind the mountain villa, underground, in the fog, and in the stream, 2 demonic eyes flashed in the darkness. Then, blood began to spurt out. Half of the Iron Hand Battalion had already rushed out. The other half quickly surrounded the entire mountain villa. The massacre began in the mountain villa. When the others rushed in to kill, Xiao Pingon didn't rush in. He only took out a cloud-piercing arrow and lit it. The cloud-piercing arrow flew to the sky of Fengtime Mountain and suddenly exploded. In the sky, it turned into a huge flame pattern that symbolized the Judgment Army. It didn't dissipate for a long time. Tonight, the weather in Shangjing City was very good. There were few clouds in the sky. When the flame pattern of the Judgment Army exploded, the entire Shangjing City could see it. This was the main force of the Judgment Army that was summoned in an emergency. After releasing the cloud-piercing arrow, Xiao Pingon's figure quickly rushed into Red Leaf Mountain Villa. He kicked open the door of the villa. How dare you? What do you want to do? Get out of here. I am. In the villa, there was a naked and fat senior official of Shangjing City. He held a bottle of immortal blood essence in his hand. There was still a trace of blood between his lips and teeth. Seeing Xiao Pingon rush in, the official immediately took out his authority and scolded Xiao Pingon. You piece of trash, you deserve to die. Xiao Pingon's eyes flashed with killing intent. He used circle prison to imprison that official on the ground and then threw a fireball at him, setting him on fire and burning him fiercely. That man screamed miserably. He was like a burning torch, but he couldn't escape from the imprisonment of the prison. After setting the trash on fire, Xiao Pingon quickly left the villa. A moment later, he appeared outside a secret room in Red Leaf Mountain Villa. Xiao Pingon entered the secret room. In the blink of an eye, he took out 2 lists of names from the secret room. Inside Shangjing City's imperial city, Beitang Zhao, who was wearing an imperial robe, walked out of the imperial study with his hands behind his back. He looked at the pattern in the northern sky with a calm expression. At the same time, Beitang Wangchuan also walked out of the quiet room. He raised his head and looked at the pattern in the northern sky. What is that place? That seems to be the direction of Fengtai Mountain. Could it be that the Judgment Army is making a big move there tonight? A woman came to Beitang Wangchuan's side and said softly, Fengtai Mountain? Beitang Wangchuan was puzzled. He didn't know why the Judgment Army was making a big move at Fengtai Mountain tonight. At the foot of Fengtai Mountain, there seemed to be a military camp of the garrison army. Could it be that the Judgment Army discovered the nightmare? If it was the nightmare, it wouldn't have alarmed the entire Judgment Army. As long as the nightmare's whereabouts were exposed, it would be solved quietly. It should be something else. Yes, let's send someone to investigate. The Judgment Army and the entire Shangjing City were alarmed. A chapter with more than 4,000 words was presented. Today's second chapter came later. Chapter 334. The entire Red Leaf Villa was filled with a thick stench of blood. just as Xiao Pingon had said. Apart from the children and a few who were deliberately left alive, everyone else in the villa had been turned into corpses and pieces in the shortest time possible. When Granny Yu walked out of her room in the villa's basement with a gloomy face, thousands of messy black threads fluttered behind her like a peacock spreading its tail, baring its fangs, and brandishing its claws. In the rooms and passageways behind her, dozens of people in white coats had been cut into pieces, and not even a complete finger could be found. Thick blood flowed behind Granny Yu, following her footsteps. Granny Yu glanced at the rows of iron cages in the underground prison, and her eyelids twitched a few times. It was not that Granny Yu had never seen a cruel and bloody scene. She had seen the dark sacrificial sites of the Blood Demon Church more than once, but none of those scenes were as heart-wrenching as the one before her eyes. There were too many children in the iron cages. Some were wailing loudly in fear, while others were already somewhat dazed, having been abused to the point of mental abnormalities. All of the children's eyes were filled with horror and terror, and there were 2 dark circles around each child's eyes. Many of the children looked like they had been abused to the point that they were neither human nor ghost. In the few rooms that she had seen earlier, there were a few new children who were hung upside down. Their bodies were pierced with black needles, and their faces were contorted in pain as their blood was drawn. In one of the villas earlier, Granny Yu had seen an old man without pants and a 7 or 8-year-old boy tied to a bed, shivering. Then, that old man was dismembered into thousands of pieces by Granny Yu's threads. It was difficult to find a complete corpse in the entire Red Leaf Villa, and it was difficult not to smell blood. Looking at the dungeon full of iron cages in front of her, Granny Yu squeezed out a tear from the corner of her eye and cursed fiercely, "These damned people are really sinful." Then, Granny Yu felt a powerful aura approaching. Granny Yu still wanted to kill a few more people. Her murderous intent could not be quelled tonight. Granny Yu rushed to the end of the corridor and caught up with a few people in white who were fleeing in panic. The wildly dancing threads sliced through the air, and the bodies of the fleeing men in white were instantly split into countless pieces like falling building blocks. Lin Yi and the Judgment Army had arrived. The officer of the Garrison Legion at the foot of the mountain also came with a group of people. The signal of the Judgment Army was so obvious, and they were so close to the Garrison Legion's camp that the Garrison Legion at the foot of the mountain couldn't ignore them. The originally quiet and secluded Red Leaves Villa suddenly became lively with the arrival of so many people. After that, the iron cages that contained the children in the dungeon were moved out by the summoned farmer and slave soldiers. They were placed in the square of Red Leaf Villa, densely packed together. Master Mao Mao waved his fishing rod and hoisted up all the crocodiles in the pond in the cave. He cut open their stomachs, and the stench was incomparable. Inside the stomachs of the crocodiles were piles of bones of children that had been digested or not. The scene was ghastly. Looking at the rows of iron cages, the children, and the bones, the soldiers of the Judgment Army, who had rushed over, fell silent. The soldiers of the Garrison Legion were also silent. It wasn't that everyone had never seen death or blood, but they had never seen such a scene. The noisy and bloody Red Leaves Villa suddenly became silent. Only the cries of the children in the iron cages echoed in the darkness and blood. Lin Yi's expression changed. He waved his hand, and countless fluorescent lamps were summoned and floated around Red Leaves Villa. The entire Red Leaves Villa was as bright as day, and the peak of Mount Feng Tai was snow white. All the ugliness had nowhere to hide. Those stewards and Steward Lin who had been caught alive were tied up in a pile. They were so scared that they were paralyzed, and their feces and urine were flowing out. "Sir," Xiao Pingon walked in front of Lin Yi calmly and handed the 2 lists to Lin. "This is what I found in a secret room here." "What's this?" Lin Yi asked. "One of the lists is a list of the rich and powerful officials of the Shang dynasty who came here to eat and enjoy the immortal blood essence provided here. There are a total of 1453 people. The other list is a list of the number of children who were caught and killed here over the years, as well as the accounts of the money and currency provided here by those rich and powerful officials. Including the children who are still alive, there are a total of 26,877 victims. Xiaoping's voice was very loud, so loud that it reached the peak of Feng Tai Mountain. Everyone present could hear it. Hearing Xiaoping's words, everyone present was in a bit of an uproar. The two numbers that Xiaoping said were too shocking. On one hand, there were 1,453 high-ranking officials and tycoons in Shanjing City. On the other hand, there were 26,877 children's corpses and blood debts. This was recorded in black and white, so it was impossible to fake it. Xiaoping's words continued to resound on the peak of the mountain. Imperial Prince Jing. So, it was Imperial Prince Jing? The surrounding crowd was in an uproar, but the uproar and commotion quickly calmed down because everyone knew the weight of the two words Imperial Prince Jing. All the financial transactions recorded here were finally transferred to the trading company controlled by Imperial Prince Jing's housekeeper and Princess Consort Jing's eldest brother. Steward Lin here was also sent by Imperial Prince Jing, and he directly takes orders from Imperial Prince Jing. Xiaoping reported loudly to Lin Yi as if he did not notice the strange atmosphere around and the meaning of the name Imperial Prince Jing. When Xiaoping loudly said that the name list involved the 1,453 rich and powerful officials of the Shang Kingdom, Lin Yi looked at Xiaoping with an incomparably sharp gaze, with a strong pressure, shooting over like an arrow. This was because Lin Yi had already perceived Xiaoping's intention. He did not expect that Xiaoping would be so bold as to reveal everything in public without any concern for the consequences. When Xiaoping loudly said Imperial Prince Jing, Lin Yi's gaze trembled slightly, and he was instantly shocked. However, Xiaoping's gaze was still calm and firm. His voice was loud and clear, without any hesitation, as if he was talking about a cat or a dog or an ordinary name. Granny Yu, Master Mao Mao, the scholar, and many people from the Iron Hand camp looked at Xiaoping. Their gazes were somewhat strange, but some were immediately filled with admiration. Everyone knew the consequences of revealing Imperial Prince Jing here. This time, if Imperial Prince Jing did not die, then the one who would die would be Xiaoping. Who was Imperial Prince Jing? How could a small envoy inspector compare to him? The face of the garrison army officer who led the team here turned green. He wished he could slap himself a few times. Why did he come here for no reason? At this time, he could neither leave nor stay. Xiaoping calmly looked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi's gaze gradually calmed down from the initial sharpness. In the end, he moved away from Xiaoping's face. Did you find anything else? Lin Yi's voice was calm. There's one more thing. As Xiaoping spoke, he waved his hand and had several slave soldiers move a few tables in front of him. He directly took out a jade awl and wrote the word scar in the air, which flashed with golden light. The word scar landed on one of the tables. In an instant, it landed on the table, and the table glowed brilliantly. Amidst the brilliance, 3 figures appeared around the table. They sat around the table, drinking something blood-red and chatting. This scene was what Xiaoping had seen through Child of Fortune that day. Everyone in Red Leaves Villa watched everything recorded on that table as if they were watching a movie. Lord Ling, I'll have to trouble you with the special budget this time. His Highness Imperial Prince Jing has already promised the Black Cloud Fleet and the 11th Corps. You won't make things difficult for His Highness Imperial Prince Jing, will you? This is a little difficult. What if Lord Wu doesn't agree? If Lord Wu makes a fuss, won't it be hard to explain to the Crown Prince? Don't worry, Lord Ling, Imperial Prince Jing is already back. He'll personally take care of Lord Wu. Lord Ling only needs to agree. As long as Lord Ling signs, Lord Wu won't ask any questions, and this matter will become a fait accompli. His Majesty won't interfere, and the Crown Prince won't have anything to say. Lord Ling, don't forget which side you're on. Then all right. Steward Lin, I've been feeling a little weak lately, and I'm a little old. If this matter is settled, Lord Ling's supply of ageless blood essence will be doubled next year. Lord Song, I'll have to trouble you with the police. The Great Shang nation's police force is too tight, so our supply of ageless blood essence isn't as smooth. Recently, several of our subordinates have been arrested by the police from all over the country. It's a little troublesome. Steward Lin, you can instruct your subordinates that if they're caught by the police in the future, they're to pretend that they're mental patients with mental problems. I'll give the police an order. If they encounter mental patients committing crimes, such as robbing and kidnapping children, they should release them as soon as possible. They have to be tolerant of mental patients and not pursue the matter. In any case, the children are fine. The most important thing is to send them to the hospital as soon as possible or have their family members come and claim them. I'll make trouble for the police everywhere if they want to imprison mental patients. It wasn't until the light and sound on the table disappeared that everyone came back to their senses from that filthy and shocking transaction, and there was a commotion in the crowd again. Reconstruct the divine text. Reconstruct the divine text. Xia Pingan actually mastered the divine text of time. Some people cried out in surprise. That's the secret skill of the divine Constable Lien Wenjie. I originally thought that after Lien Wenjie, no one else in the world would be able to master the reconstruct the divine text. I never thought that someone would be able to do so. If there were still some people who had doubts before, now that they saw the latest evidence, everyone was completely convinced that this was the sound and image displayed by the reconstruct the divine text. It couldn't be fake. Xia Pingan didn't know what the reconstruct the divine text was, nor did he know who the divine Constable Lien Wenjie was. However, it seemed that the people around him were surprised by the divine text of the word scar. Outsiders didn't know that it was the word scar, so it wasn't wrong to call it the reconstruct the divine text. He looked at Xia Pingan and sighed his heart. This guy Xia Pingan was going to nail the nail in King Jing's coffin. As a commander of the Judgment Army, it would be an insult to Lin Yi's intelligence if he still didn't understand that he had been tricked by Xia Pingan and used as a knife by Xia Pingan. However, even if he knew in his heart, he couldn't say it out loud. This was because this operation was aimed at the Dream Demon and the Blood Demon Church, not King Jing. There was a fundamental difference. He had to firmly stick to this point. If he didn't, he would be involved in the upcoming storm. Did you find any traces of the Dream Demon and the Blood Demon Church? Lin stared at Xia Pingan and asked loudly. There's an underground secret passage here. When we arrived, the Dream Demon had already escaped through the underground secret passage. I just chased into the secret passage and found the devil's eye of the Blood Demon Church's sacrifice. The Blood Demon Church should also be a participant behind the Red Leaf Villa. Only the people of the Blood Demon Church would do such a heartless thing. The secret passage here was real, and the Dream Demon was fake. The devil's eye that was piled up with bones in the secret passage was found after Xia Pingan killed the 2 pieces of trash just now. It had already been burned to ashes. It didn't matter whether it was real or fake. What was important was that only by doing this could he give an explanation to the Judgment Army and Lin Yi. At the same time, he could also put a bucket of shit on King Jing's head that he would never be able to turn over. This was Xia Pingan pushing the boat with the current to frame King Jing. The person who was framed couldn't refute it, and Xia Pingan didn't have any psychological burden. As the emperor, if Beitang Zhao didn't kill King Jing, didn't kill those ministers and rich people involved in this case, and still wanted to protect his son, then Beitang Zhao would lose the hearts of the entire Great Shang Kingdom. Beitang Zhao and the Great Shang Kingdom would also become the object of ridicule and contempt. For tonight's operation on Fengtai Mountain, the final army needed was actually the emperor of the Great Shang Kingdom, Beitang Zhao, Beitang Wangchuan, and Cao Cao's father, who was also King Jing's father. Beitang Zhao, the supreme man in the Great Shang Kingdom, was the knife that Xia Pingan needed to borrow in the end. However, by doing this, he had offended so many people and even forced the emperor to kill his son. He couldn't stay in the Great Shang Kingdom anymore. Lin glanced at Xia Pingan and took a deep breath. Then, he looked at the officer of the Judgment Army who rushed up with his men. Lord Hu, there are too many children here. Our Judgment Army's manpower is limited. Would Lord Hu please let the soldiers in the army camp at the foot of Fengtai Mountain come out and send these children to the hospital in Shangjing for treatment and diagnosis? What does Lord Hu think? Lord Hu's smile was uglier than crying. At this time, if he dared to say that he wouldn't send the children, then wouldn't he be standing with King Jing and opposing His Highness the Crown Prince? If he sent the children, then tonight's matter, the garrison army and him would be involved. This would be standing on the Crown Prince's side, and at the same time, offending King Jing. If King Jing was fine, then he would be in trouble. What's wrong? Is Lord Hu in a difficult position? Lin Yi asked softly. Without saying anything, he pulled Lord Hu into the pit. Tonight's matter at Fengtai Mountain was too big. It wasn't good for the Judgment Army to take the lead. It would be better if the garrison army was involved, Lin Yi thought to himself. Lord Hu glanced at the children locked in the iron cages. Even though he had a heart of stone, his heart trembled. Thinking of the two boys at home, he finally made up his mind and rolled up his sleeves. Damn it, sent a signal and asked the brothers below to come up and send these children to the hospital. Take good care of them in the hospital. When the garrison army arrived and rescued the children from the cages one by one, the entire Red Leaf Villa was sealed off by the Judgment Army. There were still many things and evidence in the villa, all of which were crucial. They had to be sealed off, and people were sent to watch over them. Once the outsiders left, Lin Yi's face became stern. He directly relieved Xia Pingan of his command. The 4 Shadow Guards and the Iron Hand Battalion returned to their respective positions. Inspector Xia is young and promising. In the blink of an eye, you can stir up a storm in Shangjing City. Take care of yourself in the future. After glancing at Xia Pingan, Lin Yi took some evidence and left. He hurriedly headed for the Imperial City. Before he left, he told Xia Pingan this. This old man had probably linked tonight's matter with the Crown Prince. He believed that the Crown Prince, Beitang Wangchuan, was behind his back. Yes, after tonight's matter, even if Prince Jing didn't die, it would be impossible for him to compete with Beitang Wangchuan for the throne. Beitang Wangchuan didn't participate in tonight's matter, but he was indeed the biggest winner tonight. Xia Pingan's expression didn't change. He didn't explain. When Granny Yu, Master Mao Mao, the scholar, and the others left, they all looked deeply at Xia Pingan. No one said anything. They also felt that something was wrong, but they didn't say anything. Anyway, tonight's matter was caused by the Judgment Army's Shadow Guard chasing after the Blood Demon Church and the Nightmare Demon. As for the rest, they just took care of it. This was the tone set by Sir Lin Yi. Besides, those trash deserve to die. Boy, you have guts. The demon blade didn't appear, but Xia Pingan felt that the demon blade whispered in his ear and then left. In the end, Xia Pingan left Red Leaves Villa alone. Under the starlight, Xia Pingan walked down the mountain. Watching the soldiers of the garrison corps at the foot of the mountain, sending those kids to Shangjing City in batches, Xia Pingan felt indescribably relaxed, as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. Children, this is all I can do. Child of Fortune sat on Xia Pingan's shoulder, swinging his white and chubby legs. He seemed very happy. Xia Pingan looked at the brightly lit Shangjing in the distance, and then looked at the time. He muttered something that no one could understand. The Shangjing Daily should be printed by now. Yes, the Shangjing Daily that would be read by the people of Shangjing tomorrow morning had already been printed. In a printing factory somewhere in Shangjing, bundles of printed copies of the Shangjing Daily were habitually loaded onto carriages and sent to various distribution points in Shangjing before dawn. No one noticed that the news and layout on the 3rd page of the Shangjing Daily was no longer the original news and layout. Instead, it had quietly changed to a shocking title and content. Beitang Zhao, I'm very disappointed in you. A 5,000-word chapter was presented. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.